Call this meeting to order. We got a nice crowd today. That's nice. We're going to go to the special meetings, hearings. The first one is the Lee County Board of Supervisors will hold a public hearing on September the 15th, 2016 at 6 p.m. in the General District courtroom of the Lee County Courthouse. Am I too loud?
No, don't have enough.
Located in Jonesville, Virginia, to solicit input on a special use permit request. Sharon T. Walker has applied for a special use permit to allow manufactured home park in an A1 agricultural district. The property is located on the south side of US 58 west of Clayler, a community, I probably mispronounced that, but between Route 684 and 710, and consists of 13.7 acres of land, tax parcel 80-9-678. Mr. James?
Yes, sir. Planning Commission held a similar public hearing last month. There was no public comment at that time, so Planning Commission did vote to recommend approval of the special use permit. Now, I know there are several folks here that do want to participate in the public hearing tonight, so if you don't have any questions for me, you can open the floor for public comment, or does the board have any questions, or you want to hold those to the end maybe?
What was your reason for approving it?
At that time, we'd had no negative comments no complaints from anyone. And I advised the board, as in your packet, that I'd visited several rental properties Mrs. Walker owns over in Kentucky. They all appeared to be well maintained. Saw no reason, no reason not to approve it at that time. So that was the board. The reason the board gave basically was no objections and seemed like positive input.
Another question I have is, what benefit would it be toward the county?
Well, I guess that's a subjective matter. I know when I moved here 5 years ago, it was very, very difficult to find a good quality rental home. There's still a very short supply of those, particularly in the western end of the county with the growing vet school population. So certainly, the board can decide whether this qualifies or not, but certainly there is a need for quality rental homes, particularly in the western end of the county. So that would certainly be one benefit.
Any other questions?
At that time, the staff recommendation was to approve, but of course we didn't have any input from any citizens at that time. So we'll wait and see what everyone says, and we may reserve that. So
I have a question, I guess. Do you have any idea of what quality of housing this will be? Are we looking at junk trailers, or are they going to be brand new, or do you have any idea?
well, at the time Mrs. Walker applied for the permit, she had purchased 2 homes. They weren't brand new, but they were newer. They were 5 or 10-year-old models, double wides, that she had bought. I think that they'd been foreclosed or repoed, one or the other. Were in good shape. Her intention at that time was for only be double wides in the park, and for them to be newer models, not necessarily brand new, but newer type models. And of course, if the board approves the special use permit, you can put any limiting conditions on it that you want to. You can limit it to a certain number of homes. You can limit it to a certain type of home, age of home, and you can put any limitations on it that you want to. If the board does decide to approve it, so you do have a lot of flexibility there. That's why we have the special use permit, for kind of non-standard uses that aren't too far out of the normal realm for that particular region.
You can do that?
You can put I would say any reasonable limitations on it. If you insisted they all be painted purple, that might be considered something that's not reasonable, but you can limit it. I think she's You know, you could limit it to 10 homes, let's say, for example, instead of the 20-something that she's got proposed here. You could, again, put any limiting conditions on it you want to that are reasonable. Now, the previous Board of Supervisors, you were also a member of, 2 or 3 times we had special use permits approved, and the board did add limiting conditions at that time. So that's certainly an option.
Mr. James, have you been down that area and looked at it?
I have.
Where they're talking about? I went down there over the weekend myself.
Yeah. It's one good thing about it is it's not going to be visible from the 4-lane. It sort of, you know, drops down about, I don't know, 30 or 40 feet, I guess, back there. So that's one thing that would be a positive. It wouldn't be, you know, able to easily be seen from the 4-lane. But I'm not here to stump for it or against it. I'm just, you know, reporting what is coming to my, what information I have at this point. So. All right, Mr. Slimbo, again, we open the public hearing at this time.
Okay, we'll open the floor for the public expression. You have 3 minutes. You come before the microphone and you'll state your name. You'll have 3 minutes to express your opinion and information that you have you want to give to the wards boards that we might use to make our decision. Okay.
Thank you. My name is David Thompson. I came to Virginia, retired veteran. I'm probably now living my last few years in probably the most beautiful county that I have seen area in the United States. Mr. Slamp, I understand your background. I went to your area and it's mind-boggling. As for the trailers, the only thing that has me shook up is, in contrast to the beautiful farms, and I have some beautiful neighbors and they have some really stunning land, and they have spent some considerable sums to keep them that way. The thing that strikes me as very odd is that you have trailers that look like some of them that have been there since Elvis, who's not here to defend himself. One of my buddies from Germany, we were both in service together, and he might be a little upset. I read this here that she will comply with just the general things to keep them up, skirts and all. I was stunned, and luckily we were not going fast enough, and I caught some really serious violations to the structures themselves in Ewing, in Rose Hill, and I cannot sit here or stand here and get a clear picture as to why this particular person is going to become, and the reason, and I find this really very odd. We have a very fine school developing here, which the gentleman who is involved in that, who came from Lee County and loves Lee County, the contrast is unbelievable because the students that are coming to the school are not looking for this housing trailers. I have met many of the parents in Cumberland Gap, and they would like to see their daughters and sons in some serious, nice dorms that have been developed in Cumberland Gap and will be developed there with a new sewer system on the veterinary park. But I'd like to point out the fact that this is an agriculture area, and so far the trailers I've seen that are quite clear as you come to Ewing, even on old Dr. Thomas Walker Road. I don't know how this approval came where someone is living in a trailer next to a recycle area. I'm from Atlanta, where there are some strong district management of zoning laws, and I find this kind of very odd, and I don't know, like I said, I apologize to the board, I don't know what Lee County is in contrast to a major city. I did find out very recently that Middlesboro in Kentucky, very close to us, has banned all trailers in the city. And there are 2 outstanding problems. The owners or the people living them are either from HUD or they have somehow managed to burn them. And just myself, who I am getting rid of a double wide, the regulations that the VA requires for the owner is quite expensive. So I have some doubts as to whether this owner will comply with things as skirting, since I've seen shower curtains hanging for some trailers on old Dr. Thomas Walker Road, and I don't know what the conditions in those trailers are. And again, I apologize if anyone in this room I should be in some way insulting or diminishing who they are, because I believe we all have the basic need for a home. But I know standing here that students go into this school with what they're paying to go to that school, which is one of the best new veterinary schools in America, and speaking to OV, they are not looking for trailers. And that is not the type of home situation they will be attracted to. And the farms that are, and myself in Kayla Road, we just had, which is very sad, I find it very sad, the police visited that place about 2 weeks ago for one thing, trailers very far down past Baileytown, trailers with people who have been wanted by the police for some questioning welfare. So again, I think someone is pushing someone forward. I would like to mention two things which really touch me here: the Bible reading and the flag. I think I've said enough on this question. I'd like some consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person. I'm sure we have somebody else who would like to speak.
I'm Kenneth Chickus, and I own land that borders Mrs. Walker for 2 miles. We bought the old Winston Willis place. We farm there with my family. We have 2 families living there. We came here 10 years ago. I spent a lot of money in Lee County with local people. Western Building Supply, the log cabin place up here, White Rock Trust Company, a lot of money here. And the one reason I've done it is because I like the neighborhoods and I like the historic value of it. And when I heard this, I was really shocked that this would go on as far as it did. And I'm not passing judgment on anybody. I didn't know about it until Sunday night we got back from church and I read it in the Weekender paper. We don't get the Wednesday paper. I talked to one of the supervisors today and I told him the way I felt about it. I don't know if you want me to mention your name.
Absolutely.
And I told him, I said, I just couldn't understand why someone wouldn't come out and ask, I know I'm old, but why they wouldn't come out and ask us about it?
Amen, amen, amen. Come on, brother.
Because it affects a lot of lives back there. And a lot of us are older people, but there's young people here too. And we've got our whole life invested in that. I know Mrs. Walker personally when she first moved there, and I don't know whether she's here tonight or not. But if she's here, I would tell her to her face, or I would tell you, and if you want to give me the opportunity to tell my story, I'll be glad to tell you, with my experience about having business with her. And it's not good. If you want me to do that, I'll continue.
We need to limit it to 3 minutes because it's up. A lot of people here probably want to talk.
I understand that.
She can take my 3 minutes.
My whole life. Is it appropriate? I don't know nothing about this. Is it appropriate to tell my opinion about?
You gotta be careful, be escape.
I understand that. I also gave Mr. James a copy. I don't have a computer or a cell phone or nothing like that there. I gave him a copy of a report that we seen about her bread and breakfast club. I didn't want to be rude to anybody, but I questioned Mr. James about things that happened there. And I told him where he could get the information from. And I couldn't understand why Lee County, and I'm not blaming nobody, I couldn't understand why Lee County, if she had these problems with the people that she done business with, why wasn't that, I mean, she fed people there, she let people stay there for a bread and breakfast club, but nobody's ever said nothing about it. And was that, could I ask you people, did any of y'all ever look into that before these other 2 meetings?
Said you could pass that around if you wanted to let them look at it.
You can pass that around to them, let them look at it.
And like I say, I don't mean to be rude with nobody, but I think the truth needs to be taken. The truth needs to be
Got a copy here too, so let's throw one on this end.
told. I have a lot of neighbors here tonight that I thank very much for coming here. When I came there, I met all of them, and they're all good people. When we was putting up our line fences, most every one of them here that's our neighbor offered, and I don't know for sure, but they offered, and they said that in Lee County or in Virginia, it was a law that if you had a neighbor, that you could go to them and ask them if they would share the property line fences. And someone told me that the law was that they should do that. All these people that's on the other side of me, all of them, when we started building new fences for our cattle, all of them offered. I didn't even have to ask them. They offered. And some of them had good fences up already. I did not have to offer them. I mean, when I went to Mrs. Walker and asked her, I said, well, me and my family are going to put up new fences because we're going to put cattle here. Would you be interested in sharing, not the expense of the labor, I could do that because I want to be a good neighbor. Would you provide half of the material or the money for half the material? Her response was, I'm not going to raise cattle here. She says, I want to sell it, improve it and sell it. So her answer to me was, no, I'm not going to do it. I didn't go to no lawyer and find out whether that's true or if it's not true or whatever. The other times when she started, she wasn't running no business there that I know of, but there was times when people would call in, and me and my wife and family lived right back of her. We would get a phone call from Mrs. Walker saying, something's wrong up at that house, would you go up there and check? 2 or 3 times I went up there and checked. One time we found out later on that there was some stuff robbed out of her house. I would do that. Another time she let some people back there hunting. And there was some shots fired back there. I called her up. When I started to complain about the things that was happening there, before that, when she would call me, I would try to help her out. I got to the point to where I knew that this was a one-sided deal. And when I started to ask her about things that was happening over there that didn't, we got cattle out there. I don't need somebody shooting, and this was at nighttime. When I tried to get her then, after that, when I started complaining about it, she wouldn't even answer the phone no more. Here about, I don't know exact dates, but this summer, she didn't tell us or nothing like that here, and she's not obligated to tell us, I know that. I heard from other neighbors that she had placed some new renters in her house up there. Excuse me. I later on found out that it might be someone that was, going to go to college over there. About a week after they was rented out, I was down at our shop, which is, I guess, maybe a quarter of a mile from there, and I heard bat, 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 bat. We got cows right next to her house. Someone goes back there. Now, I hadn't heard it in the last couple of weeks, but before that, it was once or twice a week. And it was somebody that would go in back of her house, which faces our place and our cattle, and they would be firing a gun. And when I called her about that, there was no answer. She never called me back on it. And I hope and pray that I don't want to be rude to anybody. And if Mrs. Walker is here or anybody else is here and wants to say something about it, that's fine. I told you the truth, and I would ask you if Mr. James, forgive me.
That's okay.
If he took the time to go to Kentucky and look at her place, would y'all come to our place and look what we have and give us that opportunity to do, if you all would do that, or send somebody to do that. The other thing is that, in my opinion, if Mrs. Walker gets a chance to do this, and we have a problem over there, we're not going to be able to get in touch with her. If Mrs. Walker would live there and manage the place, her or anybody else, and that we could have someone that if something happened, we could call her, that would be fine. My experience with Mrs. Walker is that when things happen, she's not to be around and she will not answer the telephone. And I hope I made myself clear, and I thank you for your time. I wish and pray that y'all would maybe give us a chance before you vote on it tonight. Give us a chance. If you have any questions, you can come out to our farm. We'd be glad to show you around. And if you'd give us an opportunity to maybe get a petition up, and if that would help us or hurt us, whatever. If we bring so many signatures, fine. If we don't, then it's on our shoulders. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Someone else?
I'm Harriet Chicos, Ken's wife. I'm not going to say a lot other than, I guess when it was like the day after he told me, well, I've got something to tell you, and it's not going to make you feel very good. He didn't let me see the paper, in which they said it was in the paper before, but we'd never seen it. And he let me read it, and it was just like, you know, something had happened in my family. Like, it did not feel good. I said, it's right in sight of where we're looking to that side. It'll be sitting there, all of it right there. And therefore, I knew right then our property value of it was not going to be there. It was going to take that down. And we have put, like he said, everything that we've got, we moved there in it, money-wise and everything, and cattle, and all of us, my whole family, all of us. Even in our age, we all out there working to make it look good. And then, you know, she can come in and do that. It will take away from what we've done. And I just want to say that if you were in that same situation, you know, how would it be? How would it make you feel? That's all. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Lonnie Surgener, and while I don't really have a dog in this particular situation, I would like to address it because I was affected by a special use permit, and they permitted 13 trailers behind my house without any required provision for the road. And I am, since 1994, I have been keeping this road up pretty much by myself. And you know, when you put 10, 12 trailers and it goes right by your house, you have a couple of choices: keep the road up for them, or drive through some terrible road. And it has been a real point of contention for me since that time. And you know, when we're granting special use permits, I would like to ask that this is something that would be considered, because you know, before the trailer park went in behind my house, the neighbors twice a year would buy a load of gravel, put on it, we'd split the fees, and that was the end of it, no problem. Once the trailer park went in and they refused to help the trailer park, the neighbors got mad and refused to help also. And you know, I have a road I'd like for you to come take a look at that was affected by this situation. And you know, we do need to, I have no fault with growth, I have no fault with trailer parks or anything like that, but you know, we don't need to put our citizens in a position where my house is sitting here on the corner and you're running 13 trailers by it with all the traffic that's with them and telling me to go fly a kite concerning the road. And you know, that's a situation. School buses run on it, and up till now I've got no help on it. And you know, that's a matter I'm working on with the supervisors to try to get some help, but so far it's been a negative result. Thank you.
Mr. Sir, what's the name of that road you're talking about?
Sunshine Hill Drive. It's halfway between the Rock Quarry and Parkey Farm turnaround down at Gibson Station. And it's, Lonnie Smith put about a ton of gravel in the worst chug holes this past couple of weeks, which I've got aggravated right now. I've not been working on it for the last month or so. And I'd be happy if you want to come take a look at it. It's a problem. Like I say, they're running 2, sometimes 3 school buses a day on it. And you know, that's a whole lot for one man to keep up with a half-ton truck. Thank you.
I gave my 3 minutes up, but I'll take his.
Okay.
I'm Roger Little. I live next to Mr. Chico's down there, I guess for the last 10 or 12 years. And I've always found him to be straight up, good man, good citizen of the community. And we've all worked hard in our community to make our place better, make it look presentable, pay our taxes and try to be somebody. But when you let this stuff come in, like we know's coming in, it's no good. And now's the time to stop it. That's just one plain way to put it. We don't want it. That's your all's decision. But when it comes into our farms, like he said, where they come in and shoot, bring their drugs in and everything else, we don't need it. And I hope y'all consider this when you make an opinion, and we greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm just gonna talk plain. I've lived there since I was...
Excuse me, ma'am, would you state your name, please?
Yes.
So we'll have
Oh,
the record.
I'm sorry. I'm Lacreta Markham, and I'm from Union, Virginia, and I live across from the Chicos and all these neighbors here. And I've lived there since I was 5, and it's a nice place. And there is very few trailer parks that you can tell me that is not, that is, they're just kind of, I don't want to say trashy, but they're just not kept up. And in most trailer parks, you hear there's always the officers, law enforcement are there, there's drugs. It's usually HUD people with welfare, and it's sad, but it's true. And it's always, most trailer parks are jacked up. And you said that you couldn't see from the 4-lane. I'm right on the 4-lane. I can see. I will be able to see them trailers right across my house. And as far as the college students, they're putting dorms up at the veterinarian school as soon as the sewer is in, and they do offer, all of them have the opportunity to stay in the dorms in Harrogate and many places that they rent down in Harrogate for the students. And as far as I know, the Sumter apartment areas, that's where the college students are staying. I don't see that many students will be staying in the trailer. Most people, I think, that's going into college, and I'm not meaning to degrade anybody, but they're usually wanting to be in a dorm, a home, and I have lived there my whole life. Like I say, we've all put money in our farms, and we all keep our places clean and neat. You can't go probably anywhere on any of these people's places and not see cleanliness and neatness. And if this lady does put this in, I'm going to expect the same thing for her that I have to do. And also, we're in a historical area. It's right into that park. And I see a lot of future in that park and it growing. And I just think that you need to consider the area we're in, come down and see the area we're in, and see how we keep up our properties. We pay our taxes, and now I think if them trailers go across the street, then that's gonna bring my property value down, which I'll expect my taxes to go down then, you know? And I think you all need to consider, you know, and the concern of our citizens in our community, because we're all close-knit, and we will be, you know, we're standing together, and I just hope you think about us and consider it. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Mr. Slint, there was one citizen who was not able to make it tonight and asked me to read some comments in on his behalf. Since I will not be available for the meeting tonight, thank you for allowing me to email you some of my concerns. Tom Coker, C-O-K-E-R. As I understand it, they are looking to place it behind the bed and breakfast near County Road 710. While I am not an immediate neighbor, I am a close neighbor. The proposed site is also close to the Wilderness Road State Park, historic Monte Vista, and an elementary school. What about ingress and egress from the site and the associated increase in traffic flow? How are utilities planned to be run to the site? Will garbage be picked up routinely or left to the occupant's discretion? Will there be any noise or light control? How close together will the units in the park be? What about the potential eyesore for immediate neighbors? The area is zoned agricultural for a reason. In addition, although the quality of future occupants cannot be guaranteed, there exists the possibility of an increase in crime. I'm sure no one wants that where young children are. For these reasons, I respectfully ask that you turn down the request for rezoning and not allow the mobile home park to be constructed. From Tom Coker.
Who's next? Okay, come on up.
Good afternoon. I'm Sharon Walker, and I'm the lady that's applied for the permit to do the mobile home park. Presently, I have 4 students from LMU who have a 2-year contract. They're med students to finish their med school at LMU. There is a great need for housing for LMU. They get 300 new med students every year into their program. Among all of the other programs that they have, 100 students to their LPN program, and their law school and their veterinary school gets 100 new students every year. And people are very scrounged for housing. I've had about 8 calls today about housing. And we advertise on DCOM's website for housing. We are not advertising in the newspaper to the public. We are targeting only LMU students. And we wish to provide them housing. We are going to do double wides. We've already bought all new stoves, refrigerators, washers and dryers, dishwashers, commodes. They're going to be as if they were new, all new flooring. And all of my rental at home is really nice. We visited. Everything's very well maintained. We have a couple of guys that work for us all the time. And when the neighbors ask for something or the tenants ask for something, we immediately fix it. We don't let things go. And the house down there that we've remodeled and invited everyone to come to as a bed and breakfast, we spent a lot of money on that house to remodel it. And I had a partner, and I bought out my partner just last year. And when Mr. Chico's was wanting to fence, my partner wasn't interested in fencing. So I told him he could move back the fence and gain some property if he wanted to fence, but my partner wasn't interested in fencing. And as far as people hunting, you know, I thought people always had the right to let other people come on their property and hunt. And I see nothing wrong with that. Sam Myers from Millsburg comes there and hunts and killed 2 beautiful deer. And he had a tag for Virginia to hunt. And it's got 22 acres of woods in the back to hunt. And hunting's a great sport. And I would like for you to think about the mobile home park, and I would appreciate if you would pass it for me. Because my only intentions are DCOM students. We are on DCOM's website. I'm not into drugs. I am 100% against drugs. And I do not allow drugs any of my houses at home. If I have someone that sneaks in on me, I give them a 7-day eviction notice. I got passed in Kentucky, and then in 7 more days, the judge gives them 7 more days after that. That makes 14 days, and they have to move on. I do not tolerate drugs in no form. I'm a retired teacher. I'm 110% against drugs. And my target is not to the general public. It is only to provide housing for the students. Would you like to ask me anything?
Could I ask you a question?
Yes, you can.
I'm looking at this document that was handed to us, and this gentleman here gave it to us. I'm selling a double wide right now, which meets 100%, 150, maybe more VA. The house I'm losing because I have cancer, which does not look like I may be going to the right place. I may meet the guy I've been looking for a long time. But anyway, getting away from that. It says you're requesting and you will comply with skirting. How does a double wide have skirting when I know it is a solid concrete form, quite expensive? How can you say you're going to put double wide when you have skirting? Obviously, they're going to be moved to the property. This looks to me like, are you saying double wides on that property?
Well, when we move houses all the time, we build porches, we put skirting, we put whatever we need to put. We
Not
build
on double
decks.
wide, ma'am.
Yes, you can.
I'm from Kentucky, where you're from. Listen to me. I went to
Ask all the
Middlesbrough.
neighbors. They look at houses every day that has skirting on them. They have
Well,
porches.
I think some of the supervisors will agree, and we will agree. From when I just came, new to everyone in this room, quite new. Only very few people know me. Anyway, the trailers I see, and I've seen a number which I can point to anybody in the next half hour, are being surrounded by shower curtains. I know a man who's doing
Wasn't on
manufacturing.
my property, I'm sorry.
Oh, listen, we don't want to get into
I'm sorry.
argument
No,
here.
no, there's no.
We're just expressing their opinion, not an argument. She has a right to express her opinion.
Oh, yes, I
You-
understand.
I gave you several minutes past your limit to express your opinion.
I apologize.
Okay? So, you have anything else to say?
No, I'm just here to answer any question anyone would like to ask me. And you can go to DCOM's website and you can see our advertisement. Thank you all very much.
My name's Craig Chadwell. I really don't have a dog in this hunt. I do. My mother owns property across the 4-lane from me. My question is, how's she going to be able to just put LMU students in it? Is that not discrimination? If a person's got the money to rent it, is that not discrimination?
It sure is.
It's something that needs to be thought about. Now, I don't think she's going to discriminate. I think she's going to rent it to whoever she wants to, and whoever's got the money. That's all I have.
My name's James Ramsey, and I actually own the property right in front of where it's going to be. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to worry about my children going outside and playing, all the extra traffic that's there. I don't think it's a good thing at all, by no means. We do not want to see this. Everybody that showed up here, that's the reason we're here. We don't want to see it. And the only question I have for you, do y'all want a trailer park behind you or beside you? Thank you.
Anybody else? Paul, you got anything that you want to say?
Well, now,
Anybody else? Give you a chance. All right. We'll close the, any of my fellow supervisors has anything to say? Any questions or anything for anybody? All right, we'll close the floor for public expression on this matter. Okay, let's go to the next thing on the agenda. Community Development Block Grant Woodway Housing Redevelopment Project. Notice is given that on Tuesday, March 15th, 2016 at 6 p.m. in the General District Courtroom of the Lee County Courthouse, the Lee County Board of Supervisors will conduct a public hearing to solicit public input on a proposed community development block grant application to be submitted to the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development for the Woodway Housing Redevelopment Project. The project will involve housing rehabilitation activity in the Woodway community. All interested citizens are encouraged to attend. The draft CDBG proposal or a fact sheet will be presented for comment along with information on project benefits, including the number of low and medium income residents to benefit from the proposed project, and plans to minimize displacement. Citizens will also be given an opportunity to comment on Lee County's past use of CDBG funds. A fact sheet on the project will also be available at Lenawisco Project District Commission, Duffield, Virginia. Mr. James?
Mr. Slimp, I think we have to back up and actually act on the first.
Well, are we gonna, I guess we need to do something on it. What do we want to do? Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion. I don't approve it. I've been down that area. I know how these folks feel back here. And I don't approve that.
You make a motion to deny it?
Deny. I do.
Do I hear a second from someone?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. So the project is denied. Okay, you guys happy?
We are, it's denied.
Denied.
Oh, thank you, gosh. Thank you, Lord. I thank you for that. Much appreciated.
See, we do listen.
Thank you.
Okay, I have read the second one.
Mr. Kibler's here to report on that one and the next one from the planning district office.
Good evening. My name is Frank Kibler. I'm Senior Planner with Lenawisco Planning District Commission in suburban Duffield. Just wanted to offer you a few bits of information on this particular project. Well over 2 years now, the county and the county's redevelopment housing authority have been working on this housing rehab project in Woodway. It started with the planning grant back in 13, I believe, Mr. Poe, if I'm remembering right. The housing authority has done a lot of needs assessments in the community. They've gone out numerous times and freshened up income surveys and that sort of thing. But anyway, the proposed project is would involve the rehabilitation of 18 owner-occupied housing units and what they call substantial reconstruction of 4 LMI occupied housing units. There would also be involved the demolition of 2 long vacant and derelict properties. The Housing Authority is dedicating $25,000 as local match to this particular project. The total anticipated project cost is $649,400. Again, the Housing Authority is committing $25,000 toward that cost, which, by the way, matches up with the cost for the demolition of the 2 derelict properties. And the CDBG request from the county would be $624,400. I believe you have somewhere in your possession a resolution that on behalf of the Housing Authority, I would ask that you consider adopting that primarily states your intention to submit this application in pursuit of these particular funds. And if this is funded, then the Housing Authority would implement this particular project. That's rather brief. I'll be glad to answer any questions if there are any.
How much would the county be out
Pardon?
for this project?
There's no financial request from the county itself whatsoever.
So it's basically just approval to apply for the
You're
grant.
asking for all this in grant funds, in addition to what the Housing Authority is committing. Correct.
Okay.
Application for $624,400.
Correct. Let me add, since I'll be touching on the other one here momentarily, the Community Development Block Grant Program is a competitive once-a-year funding round. That deadline is next Wednesday, and so this project will be submitted prior to that or on that date, and we should know something probably in July or August as far as what the statewide awards are going to be.
I'll make a motion that we accept.
Mr. Chairman, you need to open the floor for
Oh,
public
okay.
comment as well. And since Mr. Kibler touched on that, and I'm not saying this to try to influence you for one project over the other. I mean, my recommendation is for both projects to go forward, but I do want you to understand it's because this is a competitive process. These projects will be competing not only against other projects statewide, but against each other. And it's how they score. There's a scoring system that the state has established, and when the money runs out, the project's in. They fund what they've got funding for, and that's it. So
I was going to note that in the second hearing, but he just shortened considerably what I was going to say, so.
You want to go
I was
ahead?
trying to.
If, at such a point as you open that particular hearing.
Okay, I'll open the discussion on the second one. Notice is given that on Tuesday, March 15th, 2016, at 6 p.m. in the General District Courtroom of the Lee County Courthouse, the Lee County Board of Supervisors will conduct a public hearing to solicit public input on the proposed community block grant application to be submitted to the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development. Is that right? The one that we're doing next, the Ely bill?
Well, we need to take public comment, not just from Mr. Kibler, but open the floor to the general public on the first public hearing on the Woodway project, and then close that hearing before we go on to the second one.
Okay, it's open for, the first one's open for public comment. Discussion among the board. Do you have any comment, Mr. James?
This is a project I've been working with Scott Napper on since 2013. It's in a community that would really help the looks of, and I would appreciate the support of this board on this project.
Any other comments or?
Well, from what I'm understanding him say is that pretty much we need to put in for as many as we can because of the competitive part of it. If the more we have in, it's kind of like a lottery. I guess the more we bump our numbers up, we're having a chance for it to be approved.
Actually, it's not all that common for one locality to have more than one application at a time. It just so happens that the timing of the completion of the work on this project and the other project that we'll touch on here in a minute or two just happened to come ready at the same time. Again, I was going to comment on that part of it anyway at the second hearing. I could go ahead and address it here.
You can hit the high note so we have a understanding, but we'll have to move on.
As Mr. Poe noted, this is a competitive round. So in a way, the county will be competing against itself, and in a way, it won't. When these get to Richmond, they are scored. Different types of projects are scored together. In other words, all housing projects are scored together, all water projects are scored together, all economic development, all whatever projects are scored within that own type of that own group. Then they're all scored on a 1,000-point criteria. And then once each of those projects, then they all come together and they're ranked by cumulative score. And as Mr. Poe noted, then they start doling out awards until the money runs out. So depending on where each of the county's project winds up on that list determines whether or not there's a funding award for that particular year. Any unsuccessful project can then be resubmitted in subsequent years. Once you learn what the weaknesses of that particular proposal were, you can work on that and submit a hopefully stronger application the following spring. But again, it's not all that common for a locality to have two at the same time. It's just the timing of these particular projects. One that the Housing Authority's been working on, one, as we'll note here in a minute, that the Public Service Authority's been working on, just happened to come ready at the same time. But does that sufficiently answer
Yeah,
your
well, I
question?
was just wanting to make, so you're saying there's a possibility if they were both submitted, they could both be picked? And if they're both submitted, neither one of them may get picked? It's
That's-
basically if they've got $5 million, wherever it falls on their ranking, when they get rid of that $5 million, if they're inside this line, they get it. If it's on this side of this line, they don't.
That's
Correct?
how it works. And we never know from one year to the next. It depends on not only on the strength of the projects that we submit, but also what the competition is that year. One project, the same project might score really well one year, but not so well the next year, just depending on what its competition is.
And that's really not based on your all's decisions, it's on the score.
Right. That's strictly done by the Department of Housing and Community Development in Richmond. They score these things.
The Ely project, how much money is that we're talking about on that?
Roughly the same amount, just a
Same
little bit
amount.
more
A
than
little
that.
bit more.
About 700,000.
Like I said, I can touch on that one when you open that hearing. But is that sufficient?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, if no objection, I'll close this hearing and we'll open the other one on the Ely project.
Okay, Frank.
Okay, Ely.
Do I need to introduce myself? Actually, another young man in our office is working on this particular project, but he was at the 11th hour was called to a different matter this evening, so I volunteered to do his spot here. Again, this is a second community development block grant application that we are asking for your support and adoption and submission. This is for the Ely Dale Waterline Replacement Project. Here in the last year, 18 months, Lena Wisco completed a regional waterline replacement study, and the top ranking projects in each county. We had preliminary engineering reports done on those and then preparing them for submission to the appropriate funding agencies. In this case, this is such a project. There is a pending Appalachian Regional Commission application on this project, $140,000. It's not been announced yet. That would combine with the request here for $696,141 and change, for the total project cost of $836,141.38. So that is the second one. It would serve 78 households, 56 of which have been determined to be low and moderate income. And so this is as far as line replacement projects, we feel this is a good one, and this is a priority for the Public Service Authority. So this is being presented to you essentially on their behalf, and they would implement this project should this funding be received. Any other?
Open the floor for questions and comments. Any questions from the board? I know this is has been a priority for a long time concerning possibility of development on the western end of the county.
This is one of several projects down there.
Yeah.
That serve that purpose. This just happens to be the first.
And I definitely would love to see this one completed. Make sure that this one, the Elyville project is completed.
Comments?
I do have one more. If we submit for both of these projects, if we approve for both of them be put in for the grants, is in any way one got a shot of knocking out the other, or are we just hoping that they both go through? Or I'm gonna make sure that if we submit them both, that they both will basically boil down to their system, and we're giving ourselves the best shot to get whatever end of the county we can get, whether it be the Woodway project or whether it be the Edendale.
It really comes down to how each one scores within its group of project types. Again, the Seelydale project would be compared and scored against any other water applications that they get. Again, depends on what the competition is in that particular type. The Woodway project would be compared and scored against any other housing rehabilitation projects they get. And again, the score would reflect how it ranks against that competition. At that point, each project out of its own group will have a score. And then they take all the projects they receive and they rank them by score. At that point, then, yes, you are competing against yourself, having already competed against each project in its respective group.
Based on the score, one might be so far down that we passed it on, we might could possibly go.
That's a hard question to answer, Mr. Cope. It's.
Well, I know, that's what I'm doing.
I mean, it's hard to.
Before I cast a yea or nay.
The only way one is going to truly hurt the other or knock the other out is if both projects are very close in scoring. In other words, they're going to have to be within a point or two probably of each other. And that's going to be the divide line in where the money runs out.
Yeah, if it just so happened that they were ranked consecutively and the money cutoff was between them, so there is that remote chance that would happen. But
then you would know that one knocked the other out. But if you want to complicate it even more, the town of St. Charles, I think, probably is going to have an application going forward for a block grant application as well. So there'll be 3 out of Lee County that's going in.
And again, because it is competitive, there could, all 3 could be funded or none. We hope, we'd like to see as many as possible, obviously, for the good of the county. But again, we never know from one year to the next what the competition is going to be or how these are going to go. So the best we can do is work with the entities like the Housing Authority or the PSA and put together the best application we can. And at that point, you just see what happens. Okay.
Any discussion on this?
Well, I think you can submit as many as you can, hope you get something approved. It'd be stupid to hold one back.
I'll have to agree with Mr. Mosley. After the way that he's explained it, the more chances you put into the ranking system, hopefully, you never know, you might look up and get both. So,
Or at least one.
hopefully.
Chairman, you have a resolution, you already distributed those. You have a resolution for each of those projects. One is the Edendale project is resolution 16-005. The Woodway project is 16-006.
I'll make a motion that we apply for 16/005 and 16-006. I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, the rest of you, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
I'd like to, Mike.
You sounded like you had something to say first. Okay. All right, thank you. Spring calendar is full of interesting and exciting events coming up. First and foremost, the IDA and the Southwest Regional Workforce Development Board, of which I am a member, will be hosting a job fair on Thursday, April the 14th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Pennington Gap Community Center. We have 15 companies so far committed and anticipate around 20. We had our last event in August of 2015. We had about 150 job seekers attend, and we had 17 employers there. This time around, to help folks prepare for the job fair, the Workforce Development Board will host a job fair success workshop on the previous Monday, April the 4th. That will be from 12 to 3, also at the Pennington Gap Community Center. The job fair success workshop's open to anyone, and you don't have to attend the job fair afterwards, but you can help folks with resume preparation, how to interact with employers, how to follow up with employers, other things to help you maximize your job search at the following week's job fair. The reason they're about a week and a half apart is if you need to do some work on your resume in between, they may give you some tips and say, hey, you need to do this, this, and this to your resume before the job fair. Give everybody a little opportunity to get that done. So we encourage as many folks as possible to attend the 2 events. I'm also working with Rebecca Scott from Regional Adult Education to schedule some training classes through Plugged In, Virginia. There's a class that just started in Scott County right now to train folks on, get them certified in different nationally recognized certifications in the construction industry, and some regional employers are participating with that. And we don't have it finalized yet. We've got actually our first official meeting with some of the regional employers next week, and we'll hope to have some more information on that later on. So some free job assistance and job vocational training for folks coming up here. On a related note, the Workforce Development Board, again, I'm a member of that, was awarded a $1.9 million grant for job training for displaced coal supply chain workers. Easy for me to say. So that includes not only miners, but anyone that worked in the coal-related business, such as if you were laid off from Joy Manufacturing, for example, you would qualify for that. There's going to be free training. You can either apply for your certification in welding or in 3D printing. Those are the 2 certifications that are available. And it'll be totally free classes offered through Mountain Empire Community College. Sign up begins April the 1st. We just got the grant approval at our last meeting a couple of weeks ago. I don't have all the details yet. Should have it released any day now. But if anyone's interested in the interim, you can contact Margaret McDavid, 276-431-3605. She has an office down the hall here a couple of days a week. She's in Scott County a couple of days a week. So that's going to be a 3-year program. So if you don't get in right away, there's multiple opportunities to participate in that over the next 3 years. Other upcoming events, you all were probably invited to Congressman Griffith's Coal Symposium there on Monday, April the 4th, UVAY, so that's going to be an interesting event. Same week, Friday, April the 8th, our good friends in Russell County are hosting a legislative luncheon for our state and regional elected officials. Again, you guys should have received an invitation to that. Hopefully you're able to attend that. I am scheduled to be at a TVA training event in Nashville that day, so I will not be able to attend. But hopefully we'll have some representatives from Lee County there. On April the 26th, the Tobacco Commission is hosting a citizen input session. That's going to be in Abingdon, the Higher Ed Center, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And the Commission is requesting input from citizens to help them draft their strategic plan for the next 5 years. So again, that is April the 26th. I feel like the public service announcement guy on the radio here today. May the 5th, this board and the IDA board will attend a training class presented by TVA entitled Economic Development 101. It's a real good class. Look forward to that. TVA does a really good job with the training, and I say that as a longtime corporate trainer myself. And finally, the following Thursday, May the 12th, UVA-WISE is hosting the Southwest Virginia Economic Development Summit. I don't have too many details on that yet. They've got several well-known keynote speakers from across the country going to be here, so look forward. Hopefully some of this board can attend that event as well. So fill up everybody's calendar like mine is for the next couple of months here. So other news, the town of Pennington Gap has officially accepted the IDA's offer to purchase the town hall building and make it the permanent town hall. We expect that to close around the end of June. With the county extension office, of course, is moving next door, so it gives us kind of a second government hub in the county. We have a terrific relationship with the town, and we'll work with them on their relocation issues moving forward. We continue to feature a Spotlight Business of the Month each month. The IDA, we being the IDA at our monthly meeting, we have large businesses, small businesses. You don't have to be You can have 100 employees or one and qualify anybody that's interested in becoming our Spotlight Business of the Month should contact my office. Louise does a nice write-up in the Powell Valley News, a little free publicity, never hurts anybody, so we encourage everyone, anyone interested to contact me on that. Tourism Director Mrs. Seals and I have met twice with a potential tourism-related business that would be a welcome addition to the county should that happen. We've had a lot of help from a lot of folks around the county. Mr. Poe, Mr. Leonard have been involved in that project, and we appreciate their help, and hopefully we'll have some good news from that in the next few weeks. We're also working with a regional restaurant chain to locate in Pennington Gap. It's another active project. Mr. Poe, Mr. Leonard have also been active in that one as well. Seems like whenever folks call me interested in opening their own business, it always seems like there's 4 or 5 of the same type of business all interested at the same time, whether it's restaurants or whatever. Right now it's firearms. Firearms are hot right now, so I know Mr. Cope, you appreciate that. You're a firearms aficionado. During this quarter, during just this quarter, in 2.5 months, I've spoken to 4 prospective entrepreneurs hoping to start firearms-related businesses. One was going to be a shooting range, 2 were going to be dealers, and 1 was going to be a firearm safety instructor. So the Second Amendment is alive and well in Lee County, and hopefully some or all of these businesses will come to pass here in the next, sometime during the course of this year. Last week I submitted a grant request for up to $100,000 to be used for small business lending. This is a grant from USDA Rural Development. I hope to have some feedback on our application in the next 30 or 60 days or so. Give us a little extra money to beef up our small business lending program. IDA also sold 55 acres of surplus property down to Constitutional Oaks, or across the street from Constitutional Oaks. That closed there last month, and it's excess property the IDA could not use, as well as freeing up some proceeds to meet some obligations going forward, so that was certainly good news. Encourage everyone to check the IDA's Facebook page. We regularly post information as well as job postings from the Employment Commission, things like that. So we encourage everyone to follow us on Facebook. Planning and zoning wise, so far this quarter we've issued 13 zoning permits and 2 variances, 13 working days remaining, compared with 18 at this point last quarter. We had a couple of weeks there of snowy and cold weather, so that probably slowed down the zoning and building permits a little bit there. Planning Commission has been diving into the zoning ordinance, the subdivision ordinance, and the zoning map the last 2 months, and they meet again tomorrow night to continue that. It's a periodic review, but it's starting with commonly used variances as a starting point. It'll be an ongoing process, at least 12 months. The Planning Commission, of course, also had a public hearing for the special use permit request that we just had here for last month. And I also have visited 3 property owners so far to assist them with zoning and boundary line issues and things like that. So be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Is there an auditor here? Yeah, I'd like to change the agenda and let him come forward, because he's got to go back to Blacksburg, and that's a long trip.
I appreciate that. Thank you all for having me. I've got, you can keep the extras up there. My name is Scott Wickham, and I'm with RFC. I've been the audit manager in charge of the audit for the last 2 years. Corbin Stone wasn't able to make it tonight. He apologizes and sends his regards. Hopes everything's going well with the budget season getting ready here. My plan is to go over the audit report that you all probably received here recently, not the one I just handed out. I'm just going to hit the high points in it and not go over the numbers essentially. And then I'll go over the numbers a little bit in the handout I passed out tonight. Alright, so in the audit report on page 2 through 4 is your independent auditor's report. And this is the report where we give an opinion on the financial statements, and you all have the unmodified opinion, which is the best opinion you can get. And that means we feel comfortable that the numbers we present are materially correct. So that's good to have an unmodified opinion. On page 5, you have Exhibit 1. And this is your balance sheet, your full accrual balance sheet. If you were comparing this to a business, essentially, that's what you would look at, because they're on a full accrual accounting, and that's what this is as well. So essentially, if you come to the bottom line there, the county has 18.8 million in net position, which would be all of their assets, the buildings, less depreciation, the cash, less all of the loans that they owe, end up being about 18.8 to the good. You'll see a big negative there for the school board, and that's negative 27 million, and that's because of a new net pension liability that's required to be reported this year. I'm going to handle that more in detail here in a little bit, but that was a new standard, and I think it's about 27 million, so it's about that number for you all this year. I also wanted to point out on the far right there, you'll see the hospital authority. That was a new entity created, I think, during 2014, and 2015 was its first audit. That audit was done by Hickok and Fern, and they supplied their information. Sorry. But sorry, on that far right column on page 5 is the hospital authority, and that is their first audit, which was done by the other accounting firm, Hickok and Fern. They supplied that to us, and we entered it in there. On page 7, you have the balance sheet that's on the modified accrual basis, and this is more in your budget information. This shows your short-term, your cash and your short-term receivables and your short-term payables, and the end-of-year fund balance. On page 9 is Exhibit 5, and this one's particularly important for the board because this resembles your budget essentially. A little summarized version, but this is in the same budgetary modified accrual basis, similar to what you all budget. You'll see at the bottom there, the general fund had an excess or a deficiency of revenues or expenditures of $97,000. With 23 million in revenues and 23 in expenditures, that's essentially breaking even. Especially when you go and take the fact that you all did reassessment during this year and you paid over $300,000 for that. I can hit a few more notes on the numbers here a little bit, but that's essentially the difference in your fund balance there. All right, I'm going to flip back to the notes here on page 28. And I don't plan to read all this to you because it's quite lengthy. But GASB required us to put a new liability, the net pension liability, in your financial statements. And on page 28 is where the note disclosure starts to talk about that. It goes all the way to page 51. Quite a few notes about the plan for VRS and the new liability. I have a one-page summary in the handout that I gave out tonight that I'm going to go over. But if you want to read more detail, it's right there for you. All right, next I'm going to jump all the way to the back here. On page 105, this is your gas opinion. And this is where we talk about your internal controls and the county processes and how we get to the numbers that we opined on. You all have one finding that is similar to a lot of localities and you've had in the past, I believe. And it related to some of the, there was a couple adjustments that were made to the accounting records that we had. There were quite a few more to the school board, and they related to adjusting to combine the cafeterias. The school board has brought those cafeterias in this year, centralized the accounting for those cafeterias. So hopefully that won't be an issue going forward, and we won't have any issues going forward. So that with the work that Karen Jackson has done for you all, I think will be good to go in the future as far as not having any findings. On page 107 and 108, this is your A133 opinion. This is how the compliance on your federal programs, where we tested your school food and your health programs and those things. And this is a clean opinion. This is a good opinion. There were no issues noted during the federal testing. Again, we consider this as a good audit, and I appreciate all the staff, Dane's staff and Rita's staff and the school board staff and social services staff. Everybody was great to work with. Are there any questions on the audit, the thick document that you may have received?
Going back to the one thing that you was talking about on it's basically $97,000 difference.
Sure.
On what we was taking in versus going out.
Sure.
What span of time was that over?
That was the fiscal year 2015, so July 1 of 14 through June 30th of 2015. Okay, then I'm going to go to the handout that was passed out tonight. And I want to jump to page 2. And this shows a 10-year trend of the information that I briefly hit on, that $97,000 decrease. This shows the same information over the last 10 years. I apologize, the numbers are a little small to read there, but I wanted to give you the 10-year trend information. So on the far right column there is your 2015 information. And the green boxes on the right is your annual growth rate. The top box says that over the last 10 years, your real estate taxes, or your general property taxes, mostly real estate, have grown at 3% a year. And that's mostly due to the value of the property, so that's good to see. The next drop there you'll see, the next green box is a negative 1%. And that's a trend across the state, especially in South Virginia. Just less state and federal government money coming in to help, and you all having to fund a lot more of your services yourselves. So the decrease there is just 1%, which is probably a little bit less than most. It's definitely been a trend that way across the state. So there for total revenues, you'll see it's been a 0.5% increase throughout the last 10 years. So in a down economy, that's kind of what you expect. It's good that it's not in the negative, to be honest. If you come on down to the total operating expenditures, you'll see it's been a 0.5% increase in total operating expenditures. That's impressive to keep them that flat. So that's a credit to Dan and his staff of not paying too much for certain things and making sure you're getting the right prices for everything all the way across the board. So that's great that you all been able to handle that. I want to drop on down there so to the bottom. You'll see that the second to the bottom green box shows the ending fund balance, and that's grown at 29%. If you look in 2006, you were at $900,000. In 2015, you're at $9 million. That's great growth, especially in a down economy. So I'm impressed. That's really good as far as how you've helped build a balance for the county. A couple things on the expenditures. If you compare to last year, you'll see the general government went from about 1.4 to 1.8 million in expenditures. That was mostly because of the reassessment, which was around $300,000 cost, and you also paid about $166,000 to the hospital authority to get them started. I think to pay off some of the back taxes on the building and those things. And then you'll see an increase there of about $900,000 for health and welfare, and that is the CSA and social services that have increased. And there was an increase in local government this past year, not in the trend, but in this past year, that correlates to that because there was increased revenue from the social services and CSA departments. Any questions on that page? That's a lot of information, I know. On page 3, this is the operating reserve calculation. Again, it takes the fund balance that we discussed there that's grown so well and compares it to the operating expenditures for the county. And the first row there, it's the blue boxes. On the far right, you'll see a 16.9%. That is the ending fund balance as a percentage of operating expenditures. We typically like it to be between 15 and 20%. So you're right there in the realm where we want you to be as far as a healthy county, as far as your fund balance goes. So that hopefully you can fund some projects out of your fund balance going forward and not have to issue debt and that type of thing. But again, if you look from 2006 to where you are now, it's a tremendous improvement. So I wanted to point that out. On page 4, this is the debt summary. And this is comparing the total debt for the county and the school board per capita. So you'll see 2015 long-term debt is $45 million. Now that $45 million includes your accrued leave, your sick leave, your net pension liability, your OPEB, which is your retirement health insurance liability. So some of those are not bonded taxpayers exactly debts, but they are accounting debts. So they're accounted for in there. And the reason they're in there is because the information we get from the state per capita includes those information. So I wanted you to get apples to apples when you're comparing to the rest of the localities. So your debt per capita Last year was only $254, which is really, really impressive and really low. It might have been the lowest in the state, so that's great. You'll see a big jump there to $1,765, and that is almost all because of the net pension liability. So I mentioned that's a really big number, and that's why it's a big increase. There is an increase across the state average as well, but I did want to point that out. That's the main difference. Looking at your surrounding localities, Wise, Dickinson, Scott, and Russell, you're below those localities, so that's good for this area. On page 5, this is just a summary of your assessments. You'll see here that the assessments have grown at a total of about 1.8% over the 10 years. So kind of corresponds with the revenue growth. It's trending in the right direction, but it's not growing at an extraordinary rate either. On page 6, these are a few graphs. This is the same information that was on the first chart I showed you, just a little more visual form there. If you look at the top, the revenues by year, you'll see a light green bar across the top, and that's your state and federal funds. You'll see that's decreasing there. There's a little bit of a trend. If you come down to the operating expenditures of the blue with the stars, which is your health and welfare, a little bit of a trend there following that, because a lot of your state and federal money is related to the health and welfare. On page 7, a couple pie charts that show where your revenues are funded and where those revenues go to spend. You'll see about 46% of your revenues are state and federal. About 40% are taxes. So that's about on average with other localities. Your governmental fund operating expenditures, the second pie chart there, you'll see that 34% is for health and welfare. That's probably a little bit on the higher end when you compare it to other localities. And 20% for education might be a little bit on the lower end for other localities, but those kind of have flip-flopped a little bit. On page 8, the first chart there is your fund balance by year. And if you look, the trend there, that really is, that's a visual of that impressive growth of fund balance. So that's great to see. The debt per capita is charts there. You'll see that the jump from the debt, but as I mentioned again, that's the net pension liability causing that jump.
If you just said something, I didn't hear what it was.
Okay, over on page 9, this is a one-page summary of the net pension liability. And they made it a very complicated statement to put in. And one of the ways they tried to help everyone get the information done timely is they allowed the VRS to present the information a year behind. So the information you're seeing is actually as of June 30th, 2014. So at this point, we're pretty far behind. But payments were made during 2015 to decrease that liability. So they made new accounting categories, deferred outflows of resources, which is essentially an asset. So it's like a prepaid expense on that liability, and that will decrease your liability in this year, in FY16. They went ahead and projected your earnings when they calculated the liability, and they projected it at 7%. Now, you can see here at the bottom chart how that projection can affect the liability. So they projected 7%, so we recorded the liability at 7%. If it comes in at 6%, you can see how much it increases your liability. So if they only make 6% on their investments or less, you can see how much it's going to increase the liability going forward. If they do better than they think, it will decrease that. So it is a significant estimate based on what they're doing. I don't think they're doing very well right now, so you might expect an increase in the liability coming forward. So what does that mean for you all? Other than a big liability on your books, not a whole lot really. It could lead to increased rates coming down, but Dane probably has some information on what your upcoming VRS rates are going to be based on the actuarials. But just because you all have a big liability doesn't mean directly you're going to have increased rates. It could be down in the future. But essentially, the only thing it could affect is if you went out for bond ratings. It could affect that, but you're comparing apples to apples. Every locality has the same liability on their books, so it shouldn't affect you all that much there either. So essentially, there really isn't that much of an effect other than putting the number that was in your notes up on the face of the financial statements for full disclosure. Okay, on page 10. On page 10 and 11, this is a report that we sent to the state. We do some additional procedures, and they started last year. As far as VRS, we test your online accounting system with VNAV to make sure that everybody has the right birth date, that everybody has the right gender and the right salary in VRS, so that they're calculating this liability right for one, but also when they get their benefits, that they're getting the right benefits. I think Corbin was telling me that somewhere on the Eastern Shore there was a locality where an employee had retired, but they only worked there for actually 1 or 2 years, but no one took them out of VRS. And they retired for full VRS benefits, only working 1 or 2 years. So that was really bad for VRS, so they've given some additional procedures to try and prevent that going forward. So here's our report where we did those procedures for you all. It's a clean report. We found no issues at all. So it's very detailed testing, and there were no issues, so that's great. On page 12 through 14, this is our letter to those charged with governance, our letter to you all. This is where we talk about any new standards that you'll implement. And in that one paragraph, we talked about the net pension liabilities, the big change. It increased the length of your report probably about 10, 15 pages. It made your net pension liability increase. So there was a significant impact, so we put that in there. It also discloses any estimates in the financial statements. You all have depreciation, your allowance for doubtful accounts, your net OPEB obligation, and your net pension liability. Those are standard estimates in a county report these days. Standard across Virginia for sure. This is where we report if we had any problems with management. If we were asking for reports, they weren't giving them to us, or if they weren't giving it to us timely or anything like that. Everything was great. Everybody helped us out, did what we asked in a very timely manner, and helped the audit process along. So nothing to report there. They were great to work with, so we appreciate that. Okay, over on page 15 and 16, these are some management recommendations that we have. Very minor things, but we do want to point them out. So I've discussed them with the management of the appropriate parties, and they're working on fixing those things going forward. So nothing of concern to us. I do want to point them out.
Is there anything here you feel like we need to address?
No, I think that the appropriate parties have indicated they're going to take care of it. So I'm not too concerned about any of those things. Any questions? I know there's a lot of information, so if you have any questions at any point, feel free to ask them. My contact information is there on the bottom of the presentation. Any point in the year, feel free to send me an email, give me a call. Corbin's also there if you want to give me a call too. So. No questions, that's all I have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll get back on schedule here and get Ashley up here to tell us about what's going on with her.
Good afternoon. I'm going to try to make my report thorough but condense it somewhat. It's been something I've been working on the last several times I've presented. I'm just going to kind of overview what we've been doing in tourism, and then if you all have any questions, you're welcome to ask me. We have reordered promotional items, buttons and bumper stickers and things of that nature. We have distributed all of them that we had previously ordered. We just put in a new order for 20,000 additional brochures. We have distributed almost all of the 20,000 that we did have. So those should be coming in any day. We continue to promote I Love Lee through social media mostly. We do have a billboard in Kingsport, and we do have one on 58 that the IDA allowed us to use for free. So that's still up there. We have over the last quarter and over the last year promoted in our typical regional advertisement market, the Harlan Daily. You know, I try to target things. Our budget isn't very large, so I try to maneuver things to where, like when Jordan Smith won The Voice in Harlan County, I made sure to place an ad on the Harlan County Daily website because I knew they were going to get additional hits for stuff like that. So I try to market everything according to what's going on. And I'm not going to go into detail on every single thing that we're actually marketing, but we market regionally through our distribution, our brochure distribution company, and we hope to renew that distribution contract with them this coming year. We are working on some projects, and they were the same projects that I kind of briefly discussed with you all, but I'll go over them again. And these projects were all approved by the Tourism Committee. Basically, I just have an idea, or someone comes to me with an idea, and I present it to them and get their input, and then we decide if it's a good decision to move forward or not. And of course, the first project is the signage project that you all graciously approved for us in January, and that's to mount the I Lovely website and our logo on the Lee County signs. Last email I got from him was just a few days ago, and he said that that was being completed, and so hopefully within the next month those will be being mounted onto our signs so we can see them. The kiosk at Gibson Station that has been down there for, I think since 2006, it hasn't been really utilized. That's a kind of a revamp project that we're going to do, paint it, put a big tourist sign up so people know that there's brochures there, there's information there. It's right off of the 4-lane, so it's a great spot, and it's very little financial work, that would have to go into that, and the committee has agreed to actually support that project, so it's nothing from the Board of Supervisors. I'm working with People Incorporated to get volunteers to plant the flowers and to help me paint, so we won't be out of pocket any money for that type of stuff. Working with the transfer station to inspect the boards and to see which ones need replaced and which ones that we can just refurbish. So that project is underway. We project to have it painted and the flowers put and all of that. I think it's the mid-April is when the group from People Incorporated are going to come down and help with that. Funding our future grant applications. That is a grant application opportunity for tourism businesses in Lee County that the committee has approved, and they're two $500 grants, and they're kind of just to help businesses out. Since that's been a goal of mine since I was hired in 2014, is I've had several calls from people that just need $200 or just need $500 to maybe fix their furnace or at one of their places that tourists visit frequently, or maybe they need to put up a new nice sign, which is actually very important to a business that's trying to drive tourists in. And so we kind of developed that, and the grant applications are due by March 31st. They're on our website. Very easy to get to, big banner on there. They can call me and I can help them through the process. It's not a very hard process at all. They can mail them to me, email them to me, fax them to me, however they need to get them to me, or bring them by is fine. I actually prefer that, to bring them by to kind of get an idea of their project. So that's due by March 31st, and we should we'll make a decision at the Tourism Committee meeting the following meeting in April. So something that's new and exciting that Mr. James touched on is that we have met with a potential business that may locate to Lee County, a tourism business, an outfitter. And we spent the day showing him around, kind of showing him what we have to offer him. He's very specific on what he's wanting to do, and so we were sure to show him that we have the assets here that he needs to make his business successful. We're working with the town of Pennington, and of course Mr. Leonard has helped with that. In May, Fisher's ATV World, which is a television outdoor adventure show, is coming to Lee County to highlight Stone Mountain ATV Trail. And that is going to air 44 times and hopefully reach approximately 152 million people. So the town of Pennington and Spearhead Trails and other organizations are working on that, and we're helping to hopefully provide some accommodation for the people that are coming and help in any way that we can. There's a lot of exciting things happening in Pennington, and I just got an update directly from Keith Harless. And hopefully the new green belt will open in June. It's a beautiful walkway that surrounds Lehman Field and takes you by the POW. And also the new Welcome Center should be up and running by June. That's also a great project. Going to have souvenirs there and information and things like that for the people coming in. One of the best ways to keep someone coming back is to have information readily available to them so they are not confused while they're here. And so that's the one thing we've been working on the last several years, is to make our information clear and concise and available to them. Let's see. The Easter at Carlin is March 26th. And as always, our ilovely.org website has an events page. You click on it, it'll show you everything. Hopefully that is coming up in the county if anyone would like to attend. Does anyone have any questions for me? I've kind of put it in a nutshell there for you.
I was going to ask about those signs. I noticed they hadn't been up yet.
Yeah. And last I heard, and it was just a few days ago, he said that they were being printed and that I should have them within a month, hopefully.
Thank you, Ms. Seals. Appreciate what you do for us.
Thank you, members of the board, Chairman.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have the treasurer's report. Everybody has a chance to look at it. Open the floor for public expression of anything else. Paul?
Sorry about that, Dave. Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Paul Harris. I'm from Jonesville, live in Jonesville, but I was born and raised in Rose Hill and spent most of my life down there, actually. Everybody that knows me, a lot of them are back here, knows that I'm passionate about Thomas Walker High School and the Thomas Walker area. And I understand tonight that y'all are going to talk about the naming of the park at Thomas Walker. And one of the things I'd like to point out is I've got a copy here of a resolution of the Board of Supervisors dated December 30th, 1986. And this was when we were working on grant stuff and so forth for the park. And in this resolution, right at the end of it, it says, "Now therefore be it resolved by the Lee County Board of Supervisors that Stephen Minor is hereby authorized to cause such information or materials as may be necessary to be provided to the appropriate state agency and to enter into such agreements as may be necessary to permit the formulation, approval, and funding of the Thomas Walker Community Park." Now, this Board of Supervisors, your predecessors, named our park down there. It's the Thomas Walker Community Park. And trust me, there were a lot of community that were involved in this. I'm going to try to give you a brief history. I'll try not to be too long. I know it's a long night. But I can't talk about the park unless we talk a little bit about football, because football was really what made the park happen. And the daddy of Thomas Walker football was Ernie Helton. I don't know, I mean, you all know little Ernie. I'm talking about big Ernie. He started a junior football program at Thomas Walker. And his dream was to have football be at Thomas Walker. He spent years doing this now. And he finally got the school board to agree that we could have football at Thomas Walker, but we had to give them $10,000 cash to put football in there. Now, Ernie came to see me about 1980 at my office and get his tax return done. And he was talking to me about it, and he was very, very disheartened about what was going on. He said they just had a few $100s, and they didn't think they were going to be able to get anything done. Ernie and I talked about it and decided to have one more meeting of the people from Thomas Walker. And we met up at Ewing Elementary School. There were about
15 or 20, what I'd say daddies that showed up. And I know some of you appreciate that because you got these kids that have played. And what we decided that night is that we would borrow the money. We thought maybe People's Bank would loan us some money. We'd borrow the money and call her bluff, to tell you the truth. That's what we decided. Let's just call her bluff. So we went to People's Bank, several of us signed the note. They loaned us $10,000. And we wanted Ernie to present that check because he's the daddy that started all this stuff. You know, he's the one that worked on it so long. Well, Ernie couldn't come. So his wife, Loretta, God rest her soul, came and presented a check to the principal of Thomas Walker. And we got football at Thomas Walker. We started a JV program in 1981. Our first coach was Gary Wolf. He's sitting back here. He came from Tazewell. He was our first coach. And he knows that the only way we got anything at Thomas Walker is we had to do it ourselves. I'm telling you, we had to do it ourselves. So we couldn't play any home football games. You know, Neil Johnson was good. He let us play at Jonesville that first varsity season. Our second year we played a varsity season. We couldn't have any home games because we didn't have any lights. So I went to see the superintendent, who was Bob McCoy, and said, can we get lights at Thomas Walker? And his response to me was, well, you good folks down there got the money to start football, you can get the money to put the lights up. Now I went to Mr. Neff, Clifton Neff, who's the retired principal at Jonesville, and I asked him if he knew who put the lights up at Jonesville, and he said the school board did. And I said, do you remember when? And he said, the only thing I can remember is when Dr. Ewing was on the school board. So I went to the school board office and I asked to see the minutes for every year that Dr. Ewing was on the school board. And it was years. And they gave me a place to sit and I read every board meeting minutes from day one of Dr. Ewing being on that board. And lo and behold, on August the 18th, 1970, the school board voted not just to put lights at Jonesville, but to put them at Pennington. So I asked for a copy of these minutes, went in to see the superintendent with the copy, and said, now, will you put me on the agenda? What the point I'm trying to make is, we would have never gotten the lights unless we fought for them. We had to do it ourselves. Now, Gary and I were talking in 1983. We were talking at the end of the football field, out where the tennis courts are now. He was getting ready to have practice. And Gary was saying, Paul, we got to have a field house. These kids don't have a place to dress, we got to have a field house. And his idea was maybe we could have a community center with it, which I thought was a good idea. So he starts practice, and I walk out to the end of the field, climb up a bank out there, and looked over at this land where the park is now. Turned out to be 7 acres. And I stood on top of that bank thinking maybe, just maybe, there'd be enough room to build this park. Well, I had been on the Lena Wisco board, and I asked them, it was Skip Skinner and Steve Gibson, I asked them to come down there. They came down, measured, and surveyed, and I've worn this thing out. Trust me, but this is what I got. And lo and behold, it just did fit on that 7 acres. I want you to look at it. Got a high school field down at the bottom, and what is now the girls' softball field was a little league field, and then a swimming pool. So I went to the school board shortly thereafter, and I asked them if they would buy the property, get it through, condemnation or whatever, eminent domain. Because our football field had the baseball field on the end of it. So you couldn't do any fencing. You couldn't fence the baseball field, you couldn't fence the football field, you had to build them out every year, you had to tear it down every year, couldn't put any bleachers on the bank because that was left field. And it had a dirt infield, so the kids were getting hurt, So we needed to do something. And there's the land. It's 7 acres, belonged to Bradley Barker. And of course, they wouldn't do it. So I incorporated a booster club, Thomas Walker Booster Club, Inc. And we bought the property. We paid too much. We paid $62,500 for it. And we bought it, I'll have to get back to my notes, but we bought it in the Booster Club was incorporated in September of '85, and we got the deed on December the 17th, 1985. And now I'm talking about the Booster Club now, I owned it. And we had to pay $32,500 in cash, and he financed $30,000 over 6 years. So we had to borrow more money. We borrowed $10,000, now we go borrow $32,500. And I had people that helped me with that. Craig Chadwell's dad, R.V. Chadwell, signed the note. Kyle Rosenbaum, I know y'all know who some of these people are, but community leaders signed the note with me to get the $32,500. And then we had the $30,000, we had to pay it $5,000 a year. Okay, now we begin the process of trying to get a grant to build the pool or whatever we can do. And we were hoping to get the field house. We were hoping to get a bathhouse and a field house on the second floor and come right out on that bank out there at the end. You know how the football team used to come out of over down the bank. Robert probably remembers. But anyway, we couldn't get enough money to do that. But in June of 1986, a gentleman named Jim Guyton from the Parks and Recreation grant people came and met with me at Thomas Walker to look at this project. And by that time, we'd already started doing, because we got the deed, so we were starting to work, we were starting to build those 2 fields. And one of the things that he told me in a letter that I think is important is that because of the proximity of this, we're applying for grant money for a public park. And here's what he wrote in the letter to me on June 18th, '86. Due to the location of the property and the high school, it would have to be understood that the park was a public facility and not an extension of the school's sports facilities. Now that was critical at the time because we were getting grant money. It had to be a public park. So we got this grant application going on, and in the meantime, we're getting equipment from Bill Jassy loaned us a pan from Dryden. Scott Litton, his brother C.D. Litton, loaned us dozers, and Bill Ed Cowden, bless his heart, he's not with us anymore, but he helped me a whole lot getting the stuff started. We had dozens and dozens of people, probably over 100, that came and helped do this park, literally build this park. I'm talking about people operating dozers and pans and equipment. We were feeding them and taking care of them and buying fuel, getting money everywhere we could. I mean, keep in mind now, we're still trying to pay on these notes. We're using concession money to pay on these notes. Well, a lot of the people that contributed, Morris Lawson contributed equipment. Charles Arney let us use a little backhoe to do stuff. Gene Ely, Larry Bruner, Bill Ed Cowden, Herschel Pennington, Dayton Pope. I mean, I could name Pete DeBusk. He let us use some equipment. I could go on and on and on. So anyway, we spend all this time and we build these baseball fields. Started in '83 with the conversation with Gary. And the reason I know this date so well is on June the 4th, 1988, it was my dad's 80th birthday. And he threw out the first pitch at Thomas Walker on that baseball field. It was a senior league game with Flatwoods. And my stepson Terry was pitching. My dad threw out the first pitch, and Charles Chadwell's son, Charles was here, his son was the first batter on that baseball field on June the 4th, 1988. I mean, you got to get a sense of what we're talking about here now. And then we get to December the first thing I want to mention before I get to that. In the process in '88 of applying, we had to do an estimate on what the cost would be, in terms of if you hired this done. That project estimate, including Scott did an estimate for me on the cubic yards of dirt that was moving. It's 45,000 cubic yards, by the way, that we'd already done when we applied for the grant. And the estimate of the construction of that park in 1988 was $663,905. Now, I did the inflation calculator thing that you can do. If you can see what that's worth today, and it's over $1.3 million. That's what we're talking about here as far as a park and the value of what we built down there with volunteer effort. And somebody shows up with $12,000 and wants their name on it. It's not even 1%, I'm sorry to say. But anyway, on December the 14th, 1988, well, we were given a letter that we were to appear, somebody from the county was to appear before the grant people in Richmond on December the 14th, 1988. Now, it's sad to say that, you got to go make this presentation. Nobody from this county would go. Nobody would go. I went. I went to Richmond, myself, paid my own way, made a presentation, and I got Lena Wisco to help me. And I'm the third group, you might say. It's just me, but I'm the third group on the list. And I'm sitting there in that crowd, and the first two groups, one of them was from Bedford, Virginia, and one's from another city. And I remember Bedford was right before me. And they had 5 people, and they were in phase 3 of this big giant park project, and all 5 of them up there presenting this stuff. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm way out of my league, here I am with that, and some poster board and stuff like that, and they gave me a little easel. And I get up there and start talking, and I get about halfway through, and the chairman interrupts me. And I thought, oh gosh, here we go. And he said, Mr. Harris, I'd like to interrupt you for a minute. He said, I love your unique location. I love your unique project. And I especially love your unique dialect. He said, I like the way you talk. And he said, this project is what we're supposed to be about, because this is truly a community project, a volunteer project. He said, these other people up here are pros. He said, you've come as a representative of the community and truly presented what we're supposed to be about. And I'd like to save you some time and make a motion that we approve your grant. Of course, second, unanimous, I was thrilled to death. And I said, Mr. Chairman, can I ask you a question? He said, you sure can. I said, I'm not finished with this presentation, and I've come a long way, got a long way. Would it be all right if I finished talking? And he sat back in his chair and said, talk as long as you want. And I did, and one of those board members followed me out in the hall to tell me how proud he was to be on the board on that day, because they weren't used to seeing projects like we brought to them, which was really a community project. Well then, of course, then we had to start trying to build the pool, and we had enough money to build the pool, but we didn't have enough money to build the field house, okay? So we had to do that. And I'm talking people like Roy Witt, which y'all know, that helped us pour concrete, and Lee McPherson and his crew helping lay blocks, and my kids and their friends helping put the roof on the building. Like I said, it's just anybody and everybody that was willing and able came and helped build this park. And we spent those years, we got to host in 1991, we got to host our first senior league tournament. And I'm telling you, that was a big deal for us. They told us, that they were surprised we had our dugouts because we didn't have them a week before. But my wife knows that. We all worked our butts off for that week, and we built 2 dugouts in a week. They didn't think we'd have them, but we did. We had dugouts when they showed up, and they were impressed with the field that we had. Even Dr. Bishop, who was the superintendent of our schools, was a former baseball coach, and he met me down there one day to look at the field, and it's pouring rain. And he said, Paul, who in the world engineered this field? He said, this is the best draining baseball field I've ever been on in my life. And I said, we did. The guys that came, the community guys that came down here, we engineered it ourselves. We didn't hire anybody. We did it ourselves. We built it ourselves. We got the grant money, we got the pool built. It finally opened in 1992.
So it took 9 years from beginning to end, from the idea, thanks to Gary, the idea in 1983 till we actually opened the pool in 1992. We're talking 9 years of blood, sweat, and tears. I'm telling you now, blood, sweat, and tears. I know real well. And you know, the thing is, we already have a name for our park. It's Thomas Walker Community Park, and that's what it really is. And what I would like to say tonight is we already have a name, so let's put a sign up that says Thomas Walker Community Park, and let's put a little historical marker or something over there, like we see beside the roads, and let's put a little something about how it got there. But let's put our name up. We already got a name. Let's put it up, and let's be proud of it, because our community really, really did build it. Thank you for letting me talk, and thank you all for coming and for helping me at Thomas Walker. I appreciate it.
Yeah, everybody in agreement, we'll table this discussion and action on this till.
Well, I've got a question myself, you know, there's a question of a lawsuit. That's the whole idea of this being brought up.
Come up.
Yeah, if you like, I mean, you probably know more about it.
I know some about it, yeah.
Well, you may probably know more than I do about it. That's what we're trying to iron this out.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea. But from what I understand, there's a $12,000 lawsuit along with the lawyer fees to be paid back to this gentleman
By
the school board.
Yeah. School
From
board.
whom we fund.
Yeah, I understand that. But now, they didn't have the authority to name the park. It's
I
not
understand
there.
that.
Yeah.
So I've been on this board now since January, and it seems like for the first 3 months that I've been on this board so far, that we've been paying money back for poor decision-making by several different folks. And I'm open to the solution to getting this money back, because I don't want to see the school board pay this money back. But I don't know how everybody else feels, but
I have a question too. Paul Harris, I've known him probably longer than anybody in this house. I mean, we just lived around the curve, so I know Paul. The thing about it is, what brought us together tonight was just $12,000. Okay, Paul, was you ever approached about that place being named after you, or because of what you just read to us about the committee?
No.
Okay, the next thing is, I understand the $12,000 was taken and probably wasn't in an appropriate way. I mean, the school board, when this guy gave the $12,000 with the intent to match their fundraising up to $5,000 every year, depending on the economy. Now, I can't take nothing away what you've done for all the years, because if it hadn't been for you, there'd still be a hayfield down there. I mean, you've done it all. But we're dealing with this $12,000. Okay, this guy comes along, Mr. Starnes, for the people that don't know him, was an agriculture teacher there for 34 years at Thomas Walker. Like Joe back there, I'm sure knows him. He was there, he was the agriculture teacher.
He must work for free down there when he's ag teacher.
Pardon me?
Did he work for free when he's ag teacher?
No, he didn't work for free.
Put his name on the ag bill. Put his name on the ag bill.
I'm getting up to that. I'm getting up to that. I'm getting up to that. Okay, the $12,000 that somebody's got to pay back. Now, when he come to Thomas Walker on April the 24th and came to the baseball program, they had $58.50 and he offered him $12,000. What do you do when you got $58.50? I went to research today at Thomas Walker, and I got an itemized thing here of what they spent the $12,000 on. I just want to know myself. Pardon?
Who made the deal?
The only thing I found out was that he talked to Coach Johnson the principal. They talked to Kyle Chadwell. He took it before the board. It was approved 5-0, signed off by Mark Carter.
My understanding was the sign was up before the school board ever voted on it.
I don't know.
That's my understanding.
According to the minutes were May the 12th of 2015. It was under an action agenda item. The motion was made by Mr. Chadwell, seconded by Mr. Twigg, and unanimously passed by the board. They voted to name the baseball field and softball field at Thomas Walker High School the William H. Starnes Sports Complex. Now that came out of the minutes.
Well, I realize it's over $12,000. That's what I talked about earlier.
It is 12 plus, what he's wanting back is his 12 plus lawyer fee, court fees, whatever. That's what he wants back. If, they can't put his name back up. Thomas Walker don't have the money to pay it back, so it's up to the school board or the board of supervisors.
And Mr. Chairman, if I might speak, Mr. Leonard talked about paying back money that other people made bad decisions on. This is one we did not make a bad decision on. We weren't aware of it until it was already done. It's county property. The money should never been taken unless it was brought before this board. So we're not responsible for it. They are.
Something as important as this, I mean, honestly, it's the only community park we have. And we're gonna sell the name for $12,000 plus 5,000 a year, whatever. I'm not trying to diminish that. And I know we need the money, Robert, I know it real well. And I think about how we got everything down there. We had to scratch and claw to get it. And we put far more than $12,000 cash. Lord have mercy, the money we borrowed and the money we had to pay back. And what we did year in and year out for almost 10 years. I mean, it's a drop in the bucket.
It is. I tell you though, Paul, you don't get the community help now that you got when you was doing it.
I know that, but
you don't get it.
You gotta ask them. We shouldn't just be selling the names on our places. I'm sorry, but we shouldn't, because there's a lot more to it. There's a lot of people here that worked hard on this, and a lot of people that have passed away, bless their hearts. This 30-some years ago. It's just not right. I'm sorry, but it's not right. It's an insult to the people that worked so hard for so long. And if you got to pay the $12,000 back, pay it back. I pay taxes along with everybody else here. A mistake was made. And if it should not have happened the way it happened. I'm telling you.
No, there was error in that. It should have come before the board of supervisors.
It should have
now, for us paying it
been
back.
a public hearing about it.
Right.
People should have had some input like there are people here.
Right.
People ought to be able to stand up and say, well, wait a minute. This is our park. We built this.
My thing is, this happened in May of 2015, and I agree with Larry. It wasn't the previous board of supervisors that had anything to do with it. But once that happened, this should have been taken up then. If there was error in it, then I honestly believe it should have been taken up then. We're here getting close to a year later arguing over, something that really should have been taken care of. I hate that we're a part of it. We signed on.
I'm a part of it.
We signed on to this to try to do the best we can for the county.
Yeah, I understand.
Which in turn means saving as much money as we possibly can. I hope you understand that, but because I understand, where you're coming from. You all put a lot of work in it. It's without a doubt. You got all your.
Mr. Chairman. Yes. So, Robert, you have a record when the money was spent? And when they received that check?
I do. I don't have that with me when they received the check. I do have a copy of the check. I don't have that with me, but I do have copies of how the money was spent and what it was spent on. You can pass it down the line there. It's highlighted. I picked that up today from Thomas Walker.
If it was spent on baseball and golf do not make money. Girls softball does not make money.
Baseball does not make
all
money.
All the sports are supported by basketball and football, and mainly football.
That's what I'm saying, Mr. Mosey. When you got $50.50 and a man comes along with $12,000, you need uniforms and everything else. It looks pretty rosy to you because baseball, like you just said, don't make money.
The county can be bought for any amount of money. That's right. That's what you're saying.
I wouldn't sell my soul down for $12,000.
What's the basis of the lawsuit? What kind of lawsuit?
I don't think that they meant any harm whatsoever. I don't even think they thought about it, Paul, when they give the $12,000 for what they did. I said, I don't think they meant any harm against anybody or to make anybody mad. I mean, when they come in there and give the money, honestly, I don't think that.
But we really, you know, that's not how we should be doing things, you know? And it's just not right. I mean, it's an insult. It's an insult to all the people that work so hard. It really is.
So you want the sign that says, what did you say it was?
Thomas Walker Community Park. That's what it's always been. It's had that name for 30 years.
I didn't know.
We should have, you know, we ought to put, I know. That's right, we didn't talk about it, didn't do anything about it. At least something good ought to come out of this. Let's get the sign up. Let's, you know, get our park name up there, you know? And end this controversy. I mean, whatever has to happen, I guess has to happen. I don't know, you know, but it really, I just don't think that it should have happened the way it happened. I don't think that it ought to be named this way. I really don't, not considering, you know, the effort that's gone into it.
And you know, really, the kids is what we're talking about.
That's what the whole thing was about. Right?
Kids is what we're going to talk about.
You had more like, I bet the Litton boys' equipment wore out more cracks than what the donation was. You want to crack money back?
According to this, there's $7,000 left in that balance, right?
That's what they've got now. That wasn't what was left out of the 12.
Is how much?
7,000 is what they got now.
Got 7,000 left?
Not out of the 12, no. No.
Don't we file a lawsuit for $607,000? Sure we don't do that?
No.
He had strings attached to give money. He wasn't giving it freely. He wanted something done for his money.
Well, look here, the issue we have is inherited. There's nobody on this board voted for it. Nobody on this board voted against it. It all comes straight. I know that, Carl. I'm not saying that's what I'm saying. Nothing to do with this board, and these two were on it when you were on it. That's what I'm saying. They had nothing to do with none of it.
This is a school board issue, not a board of supervisors.
Correct, and that's what I don't understand, why this wasn't placed on the agenda for the school board back a year and a half, whenever it was, when this took place, instead of the sign just being taken down, and then everybody just gonna wash their hands of it. See,
It's the county property. It's not school board property.
well, they were the one that took the man's check, is what I'm saying, though.
Well, that was illegal.
They took it?
The same guy that put the sign up took the sign down to keep from stirring anything up. The same guy that put it up took it down. That's the reason. There was nothing to say about it until this lawsuit came up.
Okay, well, if anybody else got anything addressed, can we ask one at a time that's come up? And I mean, we give you plenty. And I mean, we're not trying, that's the only thing I'm trying to do is comment back down. We're not trying to turn it into, I went to Thomas Walker. My kids are going down to Thomas Walker. I understand the community. Terry, I went to school with you. Andy, I went to school with you. I mean, I went to school. All I've known you since I went to school down there. I'm not saying that everything you all saying is not right. The only problem is the prior school board. And another problem is there's only 2 school board members that even were on the board when this was voted. The issue that I don't understand is why, when it was first done and everybody knows about the sign, everybody should have went to the school board and then made this presentation. Then when they had the money, said, look, hand the money back. This is your money. It's already named. This was a bad decision. We shouldn't have done it to start with. But with the time going by is what I'm saying, then we inherit it. And then the first time that it's brought up that, you know, a bunch of people comes out to have issue with it, then it's in front of somebody that didn't have nothing to do with it, is what I'm trying to say.
But you all have the authority to make the decision about it.
You were elected to do that. On the land, not the school.
The county owns the land, yeah.
The school board's got the money, they're saving on cell phones now, they got the money.
If you'd like to talk, if you don't care, sir, can you come up to the microphone?
My name's Gary Wolf. I got no dog in this fight. I was gone at TW when the field house, the fields were built. But we talking about the community. And I was down there for 4 years. There was a large flat area above the school. That's it. And a hill on the other side of it. I was there with Paul and Greg, and I didn't even know 2/3 of the people was there because they wasn't parents. They graded that field better than it had been when we got there. Crabtree made the goalposts because we couldn't afford to buy them. Crabtree put the blocks on the hillside to make the bleachers. Crabtree didn't do it himself. He had boys and he worked on it. People came in, they built concession stands. Little old grandmothers. They was one sweetest old thing in the world. I don't remember her name. I think she was a lead. There every time the door opened. It's about the people down there that done it. I was proud as hell, and I still am, that I was down there. You couldn't beat Thomas Walker schools down there or the people with a stick. They're that good. Borrowing money to make a dream come true. And I've sat back there and I've listened to this stuff, and it just reminded me of watching news on television. They ain't no accountability. Let's push it off on somebody else. Sure, it was done a year and a half ago or whatever. What does it matter? Them people ain't here. Maybe they paid the price for doing things wrong. You were elected to do these stuff, to make these decisions. And if the school board screwed up, the school board screwed up. Somebody's accountable. You're the ones, it's in your pocket. It's in your ball court right now. You can't shift it over to anybody else. Accountability's got to come in somewhere.
I'll stick my neck out and make a motion that we'll name and put up a sign. For what did you say?
Thomas Walker Community Park.
Thomas Walker Community Park. And the school board can do whatever they want to with their $12,000.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Aye. Anybody else? So I don't guess these.
I make a motion that we'll table it till we can come up with a better solution to this, so we can make both parties happy, because there's a lot of work involved for this.
Mr. Chairman, and indeed no disrespect, but we need to finalize a vote on that. I don't know how the votes went. I don't know if the recording clerk got the votes. I don't know if we had ayes and nays, but we can't have a second motion until we dispense with the first motion. So I heard the call for the ayes. I did not hear a call for noes.
Okay, all not in favor?
Nay.
Nay.
Now you can make your motion.
Mr. Chairman, this is something that shouldn't even be on our agenda. It had nothing to do with us. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that what just happened here.
I do too.
Paul, I'm not speaking to schools. Why can't we build our own? Is it okay with the supervisors if we build our own signs and stuff and put up? Do I need to come to the microphone? And we build our own sign, put up Thomas Walker Community Park? Nobody have to pay for it? You worry about the $12,000 that's been stole at the school board. And that's what's happened. That's exactly what's happened. The other supervisors let it happen. Why can't we build our own? If Mr. Starnes wants to keep his $12,000, put it on the ag building, put it in the ag building. There's nothing in it now. They might be able to name a muscle on a cow or a pig or a horse or name a tree, but they can't do anything in that ag building. That's where that money should have went. That's what he should have done it for, in name of his father. I don't blame him for that. I'd want something named after my father too. On the ag building. On the ag building.
Well, that's one of the things that I chose not to vote. I'll just be honest with you. this is a flood of information. This kind of got thrown on us last minute type thing, and I see how passionate everybody is about it. I would like maybe for some more research and stuff to be put in. What I'm saying is we've heard a lot of information. A lot of people are real emotional and everything right now. And basically we need to dig a little deeper before there's just a set decision.
I'll say this.
No, we didn't say that. His motion was to table it until we could find more decision.
He voted to put the sign up.
Yeah, he said nay, Robert.
To putting the sign up until we could table it and find out more information. It was the whole motion. Make your motion, Dan.
My motion failed.
We can make a new motion. I think that's what we're trying to do, if Charles will get it in order.
Okay, I'm open for a new motion. D?
The motion is that we will table a decision tonight until we get a solution to make everybody happy, or at least attempt to make everybody happy.
Why should you make the other guy happy?
Second. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You got anything we have? 3 ayes. Motion.
Discussion. I have a question, Mr. Coach. What more information do you need?
Yeah.
Well, part of it is, okay, where did the money go through? What was the written agreement? I mean, there's a whole lot of factors playing into play. And now, and see, like this information that Mr. Harris has, that it was already named. Do you think I know that it was named in 1983 or whenever it was, 1986, and 81 had the first team? I've tried to write all this down as you were speaking to her, Mr. Harris, $62,500. I was trying to follow you. What I'm saying is I've got a whole half a page of information that nobody had brought to nobody's attention until this evening.
Because
But you got it now.
I've got it now, but I don't understand
But
why.
why can't you
it went
vote
through
if you've
school
got the
board.
information? That's what I don't
Well,
understand.
I'm not gonna be pressured into voting, Moses, until I understand both sides exactly what transpired.
It shouldn't even come before this board.
I agree
It's
with you.
something that the school
I
board
agree with
does.
I agree with you on
So
that.
we have opened a can of worms by bringing it up.
Okay, let's move on. We got other things to do.
Mr. Chairman?
And we'll,
Mr. Chairman,
I hate to do this again,
Okay.
but please call for the no votes on
I
the
did.
last motion. We had the ayes, but no noes.
any no's?
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
So let me get this straight here. Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just to be straight, all this that Paul Harris presented doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I had a brother-in-law that laid block, 2 brother-in-laws that laid block. There's more than $12,000 in sweat here, okay? Just sweat.
Lester was on a double.
We ain't talking about nothing else. We're talking about sweat. We're talking about a vision. I would like to ask, how many basketball games or football games do you think that Mr. Starnes has attended in the last 50 years that nobody even knew his name? I can tell you this year, I've seen Paul Harris at 4 or 5 ball games. Just basketball. He's the very reason that Thomas Walker exists to this day.
Amen.
The very reason. I went to school there, all my kids have. I've probably had 50 or 60 family members graduate Thomas Walker. And every one of them is indebted to Paul Harris because he had a vision to keep our little school going. That was what we done. We've got $12,000 in taxes right here. I know I pay about $2,500 a year. You know, just apply mine to that $12,000. I'm sure everybody back here has paid over 12. Greg Wheeler back here has donated thousands of dollars to that program down there. Morris Lawson, Don Grable, all of our local businesses. I was figuring it up. I was talking to little Ernie Hilton the other day. Every t-shirt you see, it says Thomas Walker on it. You see Cumberland Collision and Little Debbie. I've spent thousands myself just to help our little school, to buy cow bingo tickets, to buy donuts, we've spent thousands of dollars, more than 12,000. I guarantee you I've spent more than that in the last 10 years there at Thomas Walker. And all this work has been done, and the guy rides in on a white horse with a check for $12,000, and we melt. We melt. At what point do you compromise what you're all about for $12,000? I mean, that is the most ridiculous thing I ever seen. As the auditor said there a minute ago, we got $9 million in the bank. Cut him a check and pay him and get him out of here. Get him out of here. It's simple. I don't know at what point you can measure what Paul Harris accomplished at Thomas Walker to $12,000. And if the school board didn't know whose property was whose, that's their fault. Okay? That's county property. Okay? We go back to some of the baseball fields and stuff. Our girls softball team, varsity softball, up to about 5 or 6 years ago, was going to have to play at Rose Hill School. We had a baseball field, a little league field, and the swimming pool. So I negotiated a little bit with Mr. Marion, which was the superintendent at the time. We took the baseball field to Rose Hill, put the girls softball down there so everything would be at Thomas Walker. Just this year alone, we averaged 30 kids a day at the swimming pool. Okay, this is the community. This is the community center that Mr. Harris is talking about. That means a lot of people have been attending this stuff. And at what point, I mean, it's not a board of supervisor issue. This is not your issue. This is a school board only issue. It doesn't affect the board of supervisors. The only thing that affects the board of supervisors is if we're going to put up any signs at all. Paul Harris has never asked for his name to be put on anything.
If anybody's name would ever be.
But if anybody should be on it, it should be Paul Harris.
If anybody was ever put on it.
But he never wanted that, because he didn't do it to have his name put on a wall. He did it because he loved his community and the people in it. That's why Paul Harris did what he did. And so if it takes paying his money, pay him. Pay the man. You got $9 million, pay him. It's pretty simple.
I'll take a page out of Mr. Bowe's book there. How will taxpayers feel about that?
Well, you know, I just told you a minute ago, we've all probably paid that $12,000, just us right here, and I'm sure everybody here would agree for their money to go to that. Would y'all agree to that?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. So that's my...
Let me ask you a question, Carl, just out of curiosity. I'm gonna go back to May the 12th of 2015. You were on the board of supervisors then. How come you didn't clear it up then? You were chairman.
Well, it never came to us.
It wasn't an issue for us.
It wasn't.
It never came to the board of supervisors.
The board of supervisors.
We never knew about it.
Never knew about it.
And it should not be now.
It's not our issue. It's the school board only. It's not your issue. If it never comes here, and we don't know what's going on, you know, the communication with the school board is...
You weren't aware of it, you've been to Thomas Walker every day, you weren't aware that that sign was put up?
It went up, it came down.
It went up and it came down, yeah, because it was put on county property. Yeah. I mean, you know, I can't go...
But I'm saying, that's what I'm...
I can't go on your property and put an advertisement sign. Would you let me put an advertisement sign on your property without your knowledge?
But you knew the sign was put up, did you know it come down?
I knew it was put up and I knew it came down, yeah.
Who took it down?
I don't know.
I mean, who ordered them to take it down? Thomas Walker?
I don't know. I guess Kyle.
I thought it was a school.
Kyle Chapman?
Yeah.
You know about Kyle?
Huh?
You talking about Kyle Chapman?
Yes.
Well, he voted to put it up.
He voted to take it, or he told them to take it down too. Is that right, Mr. Harris?
Have you seen anything in minutes on that? For Kyle?
No, I haven't looked any further on the minutes. I was just trying to clarify how it got done to begin with.
Right. Well,
I've got the minutes.
Yeah, we don't know how it got done because, you know, it never came before us. So it's hard for us to say, no, you can't put this on county property if we don't know it ever existed.
I just, I strongly feel that the issue came about in May of last year that it should have been addressed long before now.
Well, like I said, if it never comes to you guys, how would you ever know about it? If nothing ever comes to you, how are you gonna know? So,
You guys are on the committee with the communication committee with the board, with the school board. Hopefully you can get more communication with the school board than what we was able to get.
I've already met with them 2 times, and that's what I'm saying. It's been kind of a flood of information. I'm being honest.
Right.
And I hope everybody can understand that. I mean, most of you I know myself, but you have to put on this side also. I mean, everybody's wanting a snapshot decision, but there was a lot of stuff come forward tonight, just like the man teaching at the ag building. See, I've never been told that.
yeah, his name should be on the ag.
But I mean, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's why we're trying to table it, to see maybe something can be done, worked out, or what have you. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, we're not killing it dead. We're not saying yes or no. That's why I want everybody to understand.
But it's a slap in everybody's face that graduated Thomas Walker since 1983 for this to happen.
I agree, but we inherited it. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
Keep him off on the ag building.
Right.
Keep him-
Yeah, put it on the ag building. I mean, it's right there beside the baseball
Well,
field.
that's what we're trying to, like I say, you know, I brought this up a little while ago, I want to hear from, you know, try to get it taken care of. It needs to be taken care of.
It needs to be
And
taken
you
care
know,
of.
And everybody needs to be satisfied.
It needs to be taken care of. It's one way or the other.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lee.
Could I say one thing? All these people, you know, I didn't personally go over there and work, but I know most of the people that did, and that they didn't ask for any recognition. Just like he said, they put their heart and soul into it because they love our kids, they love our community. Now, Mr. Starnes, I don't know him, I wouldn't know him if he's in here. But he doesn't love our kids and he does not love our community. If he did, he wouldn't be asking for his $12,000 back. And, you know, he just wanted his, he's gonna give this money to get his name over there. And, you know, that's not fair to these people. And they never once asked for any recognition. I mean, we need to leave it Thomas Walker Park, Community Park. I'm with them. I don't see that there's anything to really, I mean, $12,000, they can pay that back with their king and queen money. When my daughter was over there, they raised $14,000 or $15,000 at the king and queen, let them pay it back there if Thomas Walker used it for whatever. You know, it's just, they need to, if y'all want it paid back that way. But, you know, Mr. Starnes, you know, you should not be able to just walk in and say, here's you some money, put my name on something. They should have never done it to start with, but they did, and I see that it's not your fault. But these people asked for no recognition. They did it out of love.
They'll change Thomas Walker's name. If
Thank
they
you.
get enough money again, they'll change the whole name down there.
All right, Dane, can we make a motion for a recess now?
The chairman can call a recess.
Okay, well, let's call a recess then. All righty, on to close public expression. Okay, everybody had a chance to look at the minutes. I hear a motion to approve both sets of minutes.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Okay, we want to have a motion to approve the refunds, both sets.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, payroll warrants have been issued. Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Delegation. Guess that's you, Paul.
Well, technically, that was the auditor, old business is where quarters is at.
Okay.
Unless you want to move him up.
Well, go ahead, man. Move you up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I guess tonight is not a good night for me to ask for my name on a sign anywhere. I appreciate you inviting me back. I enjoyed our discussion last week on the possibility of my office collecting the delinquent fines and costs. You've had some time to think about it and review my materials some more. I also mailed you another packet last week. I hope that you've had time to look at that and review that. There were some questions last week about the mechanics of all this, and that's what the new document outlines in great detail, is exactly the mechanics of how this will work. So I hope that answers some of the questions you may have had last week about that. I'm happy to make this quick tonight. If y'all don't have any questions, I don't really have anything more to add to what I proposed last week, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about it.
Do we have any questions?
I don't have anything.
What do you foresee would be the projection of revenue on this full?
It varies from year to year. I think the figure last year was $34,000. And the bottom line is this is money that's not coming into the county now, that will be coming into the county if my office overtakes this responsibility. It's going to be a great thing for the county. And you guys may not have to see me again here asking for money, and you can, delegate that money to projects or other ways that you all see fit. Because as you know from our discussion last week, my office is being cut by $13,000 by the state next year. And this money that I collect through the delinquent fines and costs will help to offset that. So I don't have to come back and ask you all to help me with that.
So you're saying that this will directly go to funding positions and stuff for your office, correct?
Yes, it can be used in many ways. It can be used for to purchase office equipment or software. It can be used to hire part-time employees or a full-time employee if there's enough of it. It can be used to supplement salaries to keep those positions and their salaries competitive. It can be used in pretty much any way that I see fit.
I've read the information you sent, and my opinion is that it's a good thing, and that it'd be crazy if we didn't do it. Any other questions? Well, I'll make a motion that we approve your proposal.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you all very much.
Before he leaves, just to clarify one thing, in item 8, in what you had there, and I want to make sure you understand. You've got that, of course, you can direct the treasurer on the amount to cut to the Commonwealth for their share, and then to appropriate the balance to your office. Actually, the appropriation has to be effected by the Board of Supervisors. The treasurer can't appropriate funds. They can move funds, but the appropriation has to come from the Board of Supervisors. Now, you're saying at the end of the fiscal year, we're not talking calendar year, we are talking about at the end of June?
We're talking fiscal year.
Okay, so it would technically be appropriated probably in July to the following fiscal year?
Sure.
For expense, okay, all right.
So what you collect this year will be appropriated to you at the end of
At the beginning of the next fiscal year,
At the beginning
basically.
of next
Right.
fiscal year.
Yes, sir. Thank you all very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, finance, monthly and quarterly appropriations.
Make a motion, we approve monthly and quarterly appropriation 16-003.
All in favor? Any opposed?
Need a second.
Oh, it's
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor? Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any opposed? Okay. School board supplemental appropriations.
Chairman, you have a request there for supplemental appropriation in the amount of $374,968.57 be appropriated to the instruction category of the current fiscal year. $316,260.47 of this is additional Title I funds that were awarded. They had budgeted $1,364,000, and the actual award came out to $1,680,260.47. They also were awarded an e-learning backpack initiative grant in the amount of $58,708.10. Those funds will be used for the purchase of 190 student laptop computers to be used in the school.
Your motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, old business?
That's already been dealt with.
Okay.
Take care of that.
Okay, new board appointments, the Crooked Road. Look like Ashley Seals was on there for. You want to reappoint her?
Right.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Ashley is reappointed. Woodway Water Authority.
Motion to reappoint Charles Coleman. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, on the, just as a note there, on the board appointments for April, we've got 5 listed there on the hospital authority. Strike the first one and the last one. There's a little bit of discrepancy on what terms. We had a couple of members that, on the original appointments that did not accept those, and we had replacements in, and we got a little bit confused on the term. But Mr. Elliott and Mr. Litton, their terms are not up, but the 3 in the middle there, Mr. Martin, Mr. Cridlin, and Mr. Speak, their terms will be up next month. They are staggered terms initially. A third of the members were for 2 years, a third were for 4 years, and a third were for 6 years. So this next appointment will be a 6-year appointment.
Sonny, George, and Pat.
Yes.
So we need to appoint 3,
Question
correct?
about that.
Need to point 3
Yeah, but that'll be for next month.
next month.
Is Sonny gonna be able to serve?
I don't know. They haven't met in a couple of months now, about 3 months actually, I think.
Jeff mentioned, you're get
I
open,
sent him an email, I've not got a response.
run around, Paul Elvis do that.
But he participated by phone in the last meeting that I was at. Now, there was another meeting that I was not able to attend, so I don't know if he participated in it or not. But he's not physically been able to attend the meetings in quite some time. But that, just for information, so you wouldn't be looking for all 5 of them.
Well, you know, Mr. Martin's health, the way it is and everything, he's a encyclopedia of knowledge. Even if he can't be there, he does participate in the phone conferences.
Okay, Extension Office project pay requests, number 2.
You have a copy in your packet of Haynes and Son Construction Pay Request Number 2 in the amount of $71,865. It's for work completed to date on the Extension Office addition and remodeling project. The architect has reviewed the pay request and recommends payment, and I would concur on that. Would ask for a motion to approve the pay request. At the same time, or if you, as a separate issue, and I tried to explain this, when you're working on an existing structure like this and adding to and trying to determine some things, the architect's not going to see everything initially that's going to need to be done. There's a couple of other changes that are being proposed for the project. One I had to go ahead and act on. The power company came in they're having to provide another service entry for the new power to the addition, and they determined that they were not going to leave their power lines in the same location they were at. If you're familiar with the site out there, there's a row of huge pine trees between this building and the building that the IDA is selling to the town of Pennington Gap, and the power line ran right basically into the row of those pine trees. It's probably put there when the pines were very small. So the power company backed away from those and got their last pole to a point where it would not hopefully be affected by those trees. And it seemed to be the best call to put an underground service from that point into the building rather than running a service line under those trees that would be more subject to being torn down than even the power company's line. Additional cost on that for 90 feet of underground conduit for all the electrical, phone, and internet cable was $2,300. Had the architect review that projected cost, and it actually was a little bit less than what they had projected it to be. So because service needed to be done, I went ahead and authorized them to install that. So I'm asking after the fact for board approval for that. The contractor also advised when they got into the attic of that old building, there's only 3 inches of insulation in the ceiling of that thing. And so for a cost of $1,700, they can add 9 inches of blown-in insulation to that ceiling, which will only help us in the future as far as electrical costs for heating and cooling.
When did that building built?
1971, probably.
So you're saying that they're taking it up to 9 inches down, they're adding 9?
They're adding 9.
So
It'll
make
be a total of
12 inches.
12. It'll have a total of 12.
Now, in their previous, when they first done their quote for this project, did nobody ever look in there, like, look at that when they were placed their bid to start with? Because I know it's like 3 months in a row I can recall on that. There's been something that's added to it. And I know some things come up that you don't foresee, but now insulation is something that.
The architect did not look at the existing building for insulation or wiring or things of that nature, only the areas that were actually being renovated. There was some walls removed and rebuilding some additional walls to reconfigure the space a little bit, but other than that, they did not go through that building. They didn't go into the attic to check how much insulation was in it or anything like that, no.
So was this money included in this pay request?
No.
That's in addition to?
It would be in addition to that. I would ask first for approval of the pay request, and then secondly to approve the 2 changes.
Concerning Dee's concern there, I would say that the additional cost for the engineer to do that would be far more than what the installation here would be, additional installation.
Well, I thought it might have been. My question was, did anybody look at it to begin with? I didn't know.
They didn't really look at the existing building. That's just like the roof. They did not inspect the roof. They primarily worked with the addition and the renovated space, the areas that they were renovating, and if there was any changes required of the electrical or mechanical or anything like that. That's pretty much the limit of what they did to the existing building.
And with the insulation, I mean, that's money well spent. You're gonna get it back over a long period of time, but once this is done with the roof and all that stuff, we shouldn't have to touch that building for many, many years.
That's true.
We hope.
We hope.
Tornado.
And the power company, we had no idea that they were gonna move their line back further away from the building, requiring or necessitating the need for the underground service.
Now, is the town gonna have to do that too, right there? Are they gonna have to?
I'm not sure where their power doesn't come in at that same location. See, that was an industrial supply probably from the opposite side. This line came up from the river bottom, basically.
So the power thing couldn't have been prevented, and basically the insulation is
It's an added feature.
why they're going ahead and working to add $1,700 and just go ahead and.
Yes.
It's not something they're bumping up, they're just saying for cost efficiency, add the 1,700 while we got everything tore apart.
Yes.
Stack.
Yes.
Okay, but I mean, I understand what Dee Dee's saying, because, you put out a bid to do a certain project, you think, well, if you've agreed to that, that's what you're supposed to get done.
Right.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Well, I first make a motion that we accept the pay request number 2 for the $71,865. It's already been done.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, concerning the installation.
You want to add it into, both of them into one?
Both of them into one, yes, please.
All right, I'll make a motion to add the cost of the $2,300 for 90 foot of conduit and the $1,700 of 9 inches blown insulation.
Okay, so you're amending your original.
No,
He's
this
making
is
a
a
second
different
motion.
A second motion, okay. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None being. Okay. Next, new, what's that?
New dumpster quotes.
Dumpster quotes. Yeah, dumpster quotes.
We got 3 quotes for 16 new 8 cubic yard front load slant top dumpsters. This is standard order that we do each year. It's included in the budget. 3 vendors provided quotes. I won't read those out. You've got them there on your paper. In discussing this with Gary Collinsworth, the superintendent there at the transfer station, he advised that the dumpsters quoted by Mid-State Equipment, which are the cheapest quote, the saddle flanges, that's where the truck arms, where the lift arms go into go in to pick the dumpster up. Those saddle flanges will have to be modified. They found this out the last time when they bought them. The spacing on them is just not exactly right. They have I don't remember if we included any pictures on those, but the flanges sort of flare out as you come out away from them, and it's too wide of a spread, and it doesn't allow the mechanism to move all the way into the flanges to pick it up. So they actually have to trim those off. They have to take a plasma cutter and cut all of those to get them to where it'll actually fit. He said it would take about an hour and a half per dumpster to modify them to where it'll work on all 3 trucks. 2 of the trucks it works fine, but it's the Packmore Packer that they won't match up with. But one of those, that Packmore Packer is one of the newer trucks. So he also advised that those saddles are made out of 10 gauge metal, whereas the ones that municipal equipment priced are 7 gauge metal, which is a heavier metal. And they'll accommodate air trucks without modification. The difference in the cost of the 2 quotes is $724 total, or $45.25 per dumpster. So if we take the lowest price units from Mid-State, they will have to modify them before they can put them out for service.
The gauge on the saddles is thicker. Is the dumpsters the exact same gauge as far as the actual structure of the dumpster?
I think the dumpsters are probably same gauge metal. I think they're all probably 10 gauge.
But the sides are actually almost.
But the saddles are a little heavier on the ones from municipal.
And that's where a lot of them take the beating on that truck.
That's where you're lifting the weight, is in those saddles.
So which one's the heaviest? The
municipal has the heavier saddle.
The second.
Well, when they modify them, do they put a thicker metal on it when they modify?
No, they trim away that flared flange that comes out. Yeah, that's all they're doing.
He seemed like he went over it.
Well, I make a motion we take municipal.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Victim Witness Program.
We had noticed that the grant award for the current program year, which ends June 30th of this year, we received an additional award of $7,639. This is very unusual for a grant to be amended mid-year like this. I don't ever recall it happening before. There's no local match associated with this grant, and I would request the board accept the revised grant award amount and approve a supplemental appropriation to the Victim Witness Assistance Department in the amount of $7,639.
Who does this go to, Dane?
Donna Cobb serves as the Victim Witness Advocate.
For services, counseling, what?
Yes, it'll be broken down in her budget.
I'll make the motion that we accept.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, a new transfer station pay request, number 10.
You have a copy in your packet of Green Construction Company's pay request number 10 in the amount of $56,856.73 for work completed to date. With the recent improvement in weather, of course it's gone back to rain. When I wrote this, we hadn't had rain in a few days, but work has begun to progress a little more rapidly. They've gotten most the concrete pad work is all complete. They've been tying steel and getting ready to pour the retaining walls that come up above the floor level. They should begin erecting the building very soon, and from that point on, the project should progress pretty rapidly. So, but I would request approval that the architect has reviewed that request and recommended approval, and I would concur with that.
Motion to approve transfer station pay request number 10.
I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, new transfer station proposed change order.
And I know you don't like change orders, and I don't either, but these came about for various reasons. The first request here, this is a recommendation by the contractor at our one of our prior project meetings. In the area where the loading dock is at, where the recycling trucks will be backed into the loading dock, there is a portion of that area that's gravel, but there was another portion around that was basically going to be topsoil that would be put in and seeded. It's actually going to increase maintenance for us a little bit because it'll have to be mowed and maintained. They recommended just doing all that area in crushed stone and compacting it. There isn't a slight additional cost of $1,276.50, but in the future, as those trucks are pulled in and out of there and the trailers are spotted, if the truck gets out of the area that originally was gravelled, it won't, there's not as much danger of them getting stuck in the mud or something like that, or tearing the grass up and then us having to come back and constantly work on that. It'll just all be a smooth gravel area. The second request here was by Gary in looking, once they got started and getting further and further into the plans after the project was bid, and in talking to some other locations, and he's talked to Scott County a lot. They've got the newest transfer station in this region, just a few years old. The push walls inside the building, the waste is dropped on the tipping floor. You've got the concrete push walls around that. And one of the things that Gary suggested is that those be plated with metal to keep your equipment from coming in contact with that concrete wall as you're pushing material and causing excessive wear of your concrete. Once your concrete's deteriorated, you have to start over and re-pour all of that again. So by plating it with metal, you'll be able to come in as that metal wears down over time, you'll be able to simply remove the plates and put new plate up and protect your main walls. The additional cost on that is $10,706.50. And then the final request, sort of architect and owner combination request here. After the building was put out to bid again, there were a couple things with the doors we had some issues with. We corrected some before we went to bid, but there were still a couple things. And one thing we wanted was, just prior to going to bid, we wanted a walk-through door put in the tipping area, so that visitors coming to there didn't necessarily have to go into the office area and then out into the tipping area, that you could go straight in from the outside without having to go. If the big doors were closed, you could get in there without having to go through another part of the building. The architect made that change, but one of the things they didn't pick up on, there's the floor on the tipping pad, there's a grade that has to be maintained so that water flows correctly. There's an area to collect all the runoff and things of that nature in channels. And in that particular area where that door was added, you basically got a counter-opposing grade, because you're coming out of the office area and the grade is moving toward the center of the tipping floor, but at the same time you've got the grade working in the opposite direction, or semi-opposite direction, coming from the other wall. So you basically form a V channel right in that vicinity. Where people were going to be stepping in that door, they were going to be stepping down, and they were going to be stepping onto an uneven surface, or a non-level surface that was going to pitch them one way or the other coming out of that door. So the architect came up with a solution to add some additional curbing to the front of the building to allow proper drainage, and there was going to be an issue possibly with even being able to get the sliding doors to function the way they were supposed to without making this change. So the contractor gave a cost on that of $7,791.25. These are the kind of things that you find once you get started into a project. you know, adding a door you wouldn't think would create that big of a problem, and normally it wouldn't. But when you go into an area where you've got uneven floors and opposing angles of the floor, if someone steps in there over a period of time, visitors, even employees stepping into that surface, it could cause an injury or a fall, and could cause us more than the $7,800 it takes to correct that. So these are the type fixes that you want to fix on the front end rather than waiting till the building's up and then going back trying to make these changes. So that's the purpose in making the request for these additional changes. I don't foresee any others coming. I certainly wouldn't swear to that it couldn't happen, but we're getting pretty far along in construction to have anything else pop up. So the total on these is $19,774.25, and I would request that you consider approval on this.
You do have money to cover that?
Well, you heard the auditor talk about reserve earlier.
No, I'm not talking about reserve.
No. We're probably, with the multiple changes that we've got, we're going to be tapping very close on the 1.3 million. We do have, and of course, I'll talk to you a little bit later about the financing proposals, and then the resolution that we adopted had a maximum of 1.5 million in the event that you do have some additional costs, if you want to cover them under the loan rather than pay for them out of reserve. But there are two options to do that.
This is something, you know, I've been wanting to see built for a long time. Actually, I talked to Gary over there the other day, and by us voluntarily going ahead and building our building, we probably saved a little over $2 million. Because when they come in and the state mandates that you build these to their specs.
Right.
He said that the one that was forced to build, that theirs was like 3.3 million or something.
I can see this metal here being unnecessary. We don't want to build this thing and then.
It's a lot cheaper than concrete.
Yeah, you have to
last a lot longer.
Redo the concrete against the wall.
I'll make a motion to approve the new transfer station proposed change orders. Pay me now, pay me later.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, new transfer station proposed changes, we did that, right?
Yes.
Okay, new water monitoring well at landfill.
Due to changes, I'm gonna read the memo and give you this, and then I'm gonna turn around and take you another direction, but I'm still gonna ask for approval on this. Due to changes in the underground water flow direction and water table levels, and this is over a period of years, Virginia Department of Environmental Quality is requiring us to install a new water monitoring well at the landfill. You're required to be able to monitor basically downflow from where your flow is. Historically, at that site, water traveled southwest, underground water. Not surface water, but underground water. Or that was the theory. Over a period of years, we began to notice some changes, and they basically developed a divide line that pretty much sort of straddles the last cell at the landfill, and the water to one side of that line, south and southwest, runs to that direction, and the water to the other side of that divide runs northeast. And this, you can't see that water. You have to go on their hydrologist and the information that you get from the wells, the depth to the water table and things of that nature. Drought can affect that. Years with heavy rain can affect that. But that change came about a few years ago, and so suddenly what we thought were upgrading wells were now downgrading wells. And we drilled a couple of new wells back in the about 2002 or 2003 to the southwest to cover that side of the facility, because we did not have the sufficient number of monitoring wells on that side. Well, when that change came about, suddenly we were monitoring the other down gradient side to the northeast with only one well. And they hadn't picked up on it until our 2014 report. We had some issues with the well on that side. We had a dropping level of water in that, drastically dropping level over a period of 2 to 3 years. So we met with DEQ last month, and they said you need to drill another well to be compliant and be able to provide the down gradient monitoring system that you're legally required to have. I had Lane Engineering get a quote for installation of the well. They originally quoted a 6-inch well. We later determined that it could be done with a 2-inch well. And so the $17,400 cost was a good estimate for everything that was going to have to be done. The actual cost of having the well drilled now is about $13,500. But the installation, the pump, the lines, and everything of that nature that has to be installed to monitor that well is another $3,200 and some dollars. So all total, it's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of about $16,700 to $800. Yes. Now, monitoring well is not just drill a well like you would a home well. You have to have seals built all at different levels and things of that nature. So it's a little bit more complicated for a monitoring well than just a home well that you would use.
If we put in 2 inches, they're not gonna come back and require us to put in a bigger one.
No.
They can't get sufficient information.
No, 2 inches is sufficient for monitoring.
Okay.
What was your quote for that total on that 2 inches? 16 something, wasn't it?
The 2 inch was $13,500.
Plus the pump.
Plus the pump and installation and everything. The
So
total of
this
everything.
6 inch was 17.4. Does that include the pump, or is that just the well?
That was just the well for the 6 inch.
Okay.
So yeah, so now total of everything is going to be less than the 17,000 figure that I quoted you initially.
So what do you have a total on that?
Well, I'll go with the $17,000 number for now, up to that. Now, here's the other thing. I want to go ahead and ask for approval to drill the well. But now I'm going to tell you that we don't know exactly where we're going to put the well. We had it pinpointed. They came back last week to be sure. Part of what's triggering this is a sample taken in the October of 2014. There's been 2 additional sampling cycles since that time in 2015. But DEQ has just now finished the review of the 2014 report, because the 15 report hasn't been filed yet. It'll be filed within the next 30 days. But we do have the sampling data, but they have not had time to take that and analyze it and statistically determine what they think may or may not be happening there. They came down for an on-site visit 2 weeks ago. Looked at the lay of the land near that well, on past that well, looked at everything in the area. We thought we had the plan. That's what this well was going to do. To be safe, the engineer said, let's get elevations, let's get depth elevations on those wells one more time before we do this. There's changes taking place in that existing monitoring well. So he suggested that we go back and have another meeting with the EQ with this information to make sure we know before we spend the money that we're drilling our well in the right place.
I was going to say that we drill more wells over there since I've been on the board than they drilled in Texas for oil.
Well,
so they don't determine exactly where you drill it at?
Well, they give you a general area. I mean, you want it to be in the water flow direction. And that's what we're concerned about, is that based on the elevations of the water, the flow is moving slightly, and the engineer's afraid that if we go ahead and drill a well now before we confer with them again, we may not have it in the right location and they won't approve it. So we want to make sure they're involved in this as we develop the location of the well.
It would be nice if they had reviewed the data from the most recent monitoring over there. I mean, it may have changed. We come in there and drill well, it's not going here, it may be over here.
Well, and that's what we want to do. I mean, we want to take a little bit more time. I would still like to ask for approval to drill another monitoring well. We're going to have another monitoring well. But I'd like to go ahead and have the approval, because without it, if we get the okay to go one day after the board meeting, I've got to wait 4 weeks to get approval to drill that well, and that cuts us short on sampling time. Because even though all these things are affecting what we do to get this network in, or to maintain the network, time is still working against us, because they're saying, you've got a sampling cycle, you've got to do it. Well, if we're taking it on wells that won't give us the needed results, we're wasting our money on that sampling cycle. So that's why I want pre-approval to go ahead and drill the well once we've determined where it needs to go. But I wanted you to have the full story. This other just developed yesterday. We got the well elevation depths back yesterday, and that's when he reviewed them. He called me. He said something's going on, and he said we need to meet with them again before we do anything.
So why are they so far behind? Why are they just?
Well, we submit an annual report. The annual groundwater monitoring report is about that thick, just for this facility. The gas monitoring report is about like that, but the groundwater it's a 3-inch binder full.
But surely they have somebody that monitors it monthly, don't they?
Well, we were going to meet with them in January. The meeting took place in Abingdon in January. Our goal, we requested the meeting. We wanted to meet with them to discuss coming out from under groundwater and gas monitoring. When we got to the meeting, between the time that it was scheduled and when we met, is when they discovered that sample in October of 2014 in that 2014 report. The 2014 report was filed in March or April of 2015. So they've been, since then, just discovering that. When we got to the meeting, we were hit with a totally different issue. Instead of us requesting to come out, they were telling us we were going to have to drill another well. Now, we are still moving forward with an application to come out from under gas monitoring. We've been clean on gas monitoring now for about a year. So we're getting ready to submit a plan on that. Unfortunately, gas monitoring is the cheapest of the two.
So you're just needing the approval, and then based on where it needs to be drilled.
Then we'll move forward as soon as possible once we know that we've got the location pinpointed.
Well, that's kind of one of them things where our hands are tied. We don't have much of a choice, but make a motion to grant approval for $17,400 for a well installation. I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
None. Any opposed?
The next item is electoral board request for a new copier. And we had just gotten quotes in and didn't have time to really analyze them at the time the packets went out. So I put a memo in there just to give you a little idea of what they were asking for. And the actual quotes are being distributed to you now. But the electoral board is requesting to use a portion of their capital outlay funds for this year to purchase a new combination copier, printer, scanner for the registrar's office. Those two offices work hand in hand. They were budgeted $16,000 in the current budget for the purchase of electronic poll books, but we did not have to buy them. The state ultimately provided them to all localities, so we haven't had to spend any of that money for the poll books. The registrar's office currently has a large printer and then one small combination copier, printer, scanner. Both machines are networked, so either employee in that office can access them. The printer works fine, according to what they tell me, but the smaller copier combo unit, and the printer is not a copier, so you can't make copies on it. It has to be something you're printing off your computer. But that smaller machine, which is the copier and scanner, has been giving them quite a few problems. It also, being a smaller machine, this is typically how it works. The smaller the machine, the more expensive the toner cartridges. And so, and it is a color unit, so maintenance on that is getting a little bit excessive. So that's why the electoral board is requesting that this be done, to buy a better quality all-in-one machine that would replace both of those machines in the registrar's office. I told you I was looking at an estimated cost of somewhere in the $6,000 range, and that's pretty much where we came in at. You see from the memo that was just distributed, we had 3 quotes. The first one from Tri-City Business Machines is on a Konica Minolta machine, $6,236. We had a Ricoh that came in at $5,775, and the Johnco at $5,800. The Johnco company is a Kyocera, $5,815.51. So just about $40 difference there in those 2 lower cost units. Pretty much identical on their printing capacities and their scanning capacities. The maintenance cost on the Ricoh is a little bit cheaper on the black and white, which is going to be predominantly, probably 90% of all your printing is going to be black and white. It's slightly cheaper. And on color, the Kyocera unit came with a 3-tiered maintenance cost on that. So my recommendation is to go, based on all the information that they have, that we go with the Ricoh machine if you approve the purchase on this. We have a couple of other Ricohs in the building, and those offices reported that they're doing fine, getting good service out of them.
How many is in here? How many have we?
We have 2 of the Ricoh units. We got 2 currently in the building. We had one in our office. I think, was our last one a Ricoh? I was thinking it was. We got good service out of it.
You talking about 91 for $57.75?
Yes.
So, you're asking for the $6,000 or just to?
Well,
just
I estimated the cost was going to be somewhere around $6,000, just to give you an idea, without walking into the meeting totally cold on what we're talking about. So no, $57.75 is the only dollar amount in question here, if it's approved.
That's money left over in their budget, correct?
That is money. It's actually in the electoral board's budget,
Right.
but the machines would be. And I mean, registrar's office does the printing for the electoral board. They don't have their own printer.
Right. I'll make a motion. Go ahead, DD.
I'll make a motion to purchase the Ricoh copier printer scanner for the registrar's office.
And I'll second that.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mr. Chairman, before you move on, I have a little bit of, I'd like to add to this new business. The Rose Hill Library. The Rose Hill Library, for some reason, when time changed, they say they have to go from 2 to 6. They prefer to stay at 1 to 5. I use that library to make copies because I don't have a copier. And the people up there, I've talked to them about it, and that's what they like. So I asked them, well, you know, why don't you like the 2 to 6? Well, 5 o'clock, a lot of the people are just getting in from work or whatever. They're going home for lunch or supper or whatever the case may be. But they say the 1 to 5 really works well for them. I can't see a big problem leaving it 1 to 5. But I'd like to make a motion to the board to leave the Rose Hill Library 1 to 5 instead of going daylight saving time 2 to 6.
I would second that motion if you're gonna make it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Why did they change it? I mean,
They said they have to because of, actually I asked Lillian Johnson, and she said they called up here last year. I don't know if it's Dane's office or whose office called and says, you know, can we stay on 1 to 5 instead of going daylight saving time 2 to 6? Whoever they talked to up here said, no, you
We don't set the hours in the library.
Well,
The
who
library
set-
board sets
Yeah.
that. We have nothing to do with setting.
I'm not sure how.
We can make a request.
What we just did.
Well, what I was gonna say after once you finish the vote, is that what this will be a request to the library system
Right.
that they change those hours back to 1 to 5, but those are set by their board, not
Who
ours.
is the
We-
library board?
Our members, I don't have the list with me. You've got a copy of it.
List for a library board.
We have 2 members on the regional library board, but it's a regional system.
Headquarters
Jordan.
is in Lines.
I think so. Melanie, is she still on there, Rick?
She is for a few more months, and then she has to go off because she served 2 terms.
Yeah, Ruth Gillum. Ruth Gillum, I think, is our other member. So those are our 2 members on there.
I'll speak to her tonight.
But it's a board made up of Lee, Wise, Scott, and Dickinson counties. But
So
we can
that'll
make,
just go in as a recommendation.
yeah, this will go as a
Adam's
recommendation to them
Okay.
that the board's requesting that the hours be put back to 1 to 5
Well, when will we find that out down there?
when they meet again. We'll send the request out this week. In fact, it'll probably go out tomorrow.
It's probably something their board had to vote on whenever they meet.
They meet monthly, so.
You will let me know then, Dane, whenever you.
Just tell them that's Western Lead, they're in a different time zone down there.
Why is that? I mean, why do they have to change time? What about the one in Pennington?
I don't know. I don't understand what the time, daylight saving time has to do with changing the hours.
No,
at the
business
library.
hours, that.
I don't understand that.
I don't understand that.
We make it go from 9 to 5:30.
I just like to know what the hours of the one in Pennington is.
Say it to 3:30.
That sounds right.
Well, they're open more hours than Pennington,
They are.
so, yeah. They're open, I'd say 40 hours a week
Actually, we're going to see.
over the 7-day period.
Like 8 to 9:30 right now.
It's a lot more.
All right.
I've got something else, new business I'd like to bring. We talked about it a little bit, I think, last time, but we need to, make a request to change, our way of receiving our gravel fund from the, coal severance tax, which we have no more. We have a couple members that are completely out of gravel fund money.
I had a man ask me here tonight, Dane Stenner, he needing gravel. I get hit right much with that.
I make a motion that, we take it from where we gotta take it to be able, for each member to be able to have a sufficient gravel fund yearly.
Do I hear a second?
Well, are you stating an amount or?
Well, I'm not sure what the previous amount was, at like $2,500 should be enough to get.
2,500? I guess, is that right? Mr.
Everybody
Flint?
doesn't
Mr. Monk?
need that much, you know.
2,500 a year is what was previously, right? That's the reason I'm asking. And the other question is, when are you talking about a supplement for this year, for this current fiscal year?
I would ask for a supplement for the ones that don't have a gravel fund this year, and then the following year, if, you know, each member at the beginning of the year, you start out with a $2,500 gravel fund until, you know, things some way changes till we get money back some kind of way from, maybe the coal severance tax comes back again, who knows, we hope and pray, but we don't know that.
I would request with that motion that we be allowed to carry over what
We do. We
Yeah,
automatically
yeah.
carry over anything that's been done, or that's what we've done in the past.
Well, see if there was something in the fund and somebody had something extra and say Robert was in the bind he was in now, then, you know, somebody could let until, you know, it's all pulled out or what have you, because, I mean, they've been doing it since the eons of
Well, we
all of
don't,
it going on.
we don't put it into one, we don't put it into one
Well, I know
line. We
each
put it
one
into
is
5 line items. We distribute it to each district at the beginning of
But
the
what I'm
fiscal
saying is
year.
I could pull some out of mine if needed.
Yeah.
To
we've
roll.
done that.
That's what I'm saying. If everybody had, you know, that small amount, because Probably mine and Robert's district, I'd say has more gravel roads.
Tell you, District 1 is covered with gravel roads, believe me. They've got them.
They're all over.
Oh, I know they're all over the county.
District 4.
I
They're all
understand that.
over, I'm telling you.
Are you, you want to put forth an amount to supplement, or?
When would this go into play?
Well,
July
that's what
1?
I'm asking.
Are we saying appropriate it now and then?
I need it now.
Not worry about it until the funds run out?
Well, Robert needs it now. I don't
Well-
know if anybody else needs it now or not.
Well, when did you get your funds from the coal fund, the coal service tax fund? Was that awarded in January?
July.
No, July 1,
July.
when our budget starts.
Right.
3 months away.
When I took office, I was $300 over what was appropriated in July 1. I didn't have any. I took 300 out of mine for the next year.
Right.
Well, you know, it's like we've discussed before. You got to have some gravel for the constituents, no matter where it comes from. I mean, whatever fund we take out of, or whatever fund we make. I mean, it's like you stood here tonight and heard this gentleman here talking. 10-ton of rock. I had a guy call me the other day. He said, you know, I got 10-ton of rock 4 years ago. Well, every 4 years, asking for 10-ton of rock ain't too much. Even your 57, which is good rock, is probably 1150 a ton. And if you go below that, so you're not, you can take $2,500 and you can go a long way and you can make a lot of people happy. And you make me happy. Not in my district. Then you make me happy. But, you know,
Can I throw out a number? Say $1,000 until budget time, when we all get an additional 2,500?
Up till July 1?
Yeah.
We could agree with that. That would work. At least it gives him some gravel.
Yeah, if you want to put that in.
So we're talking about to the one district, to District 1, $1,000 to
If
District 1.
nobody else needs it, I guess so.
Okay.
Well, I could use it, but.
I say we just go ahead and
fair.
appropriate it in all 5 and then reevaluate come July 1.
Well, I have money right now. I'm fixing to be using it, but, you know, I was kind of waiting until the weather breaks a little bit, but still yet. I think I've got
We
enough
can
to
do
do
that.
me till July 1.
Do 1,000 for everybody. Be fair that way.
Okay.
Then we can move it if somebody needs it.
I think you need some kind of stipulations and regulations on where
Well,
you
yeah,
put this rock.
Well, how it's been, what the rules have been in the past is it's supposed to serve, any road it goes on is to be a private road first, not a public road. If it's VDOT, don't put gravel on it. But it has to serve 3 or more homes.
Right.
I mean, I wish a lot of the roads down home was VDOT. Because I'd have Sam come, I can work with Sam just a little bit, I'd get some rock, but you
So the
know.
motion is gonna be a supplemental appropriation of $5,000, $1,000 to each district, from the general fund to each of the gravel funds.
July 1.
Well, appropriations expire July 1, and then we have to reappropriate any carryover balance.
Well, he said the stipulations are there's at least 3 houses on the road.
I know, but
So moved.
that's cold severs, that wasn't, that was different.
I think, well, okay, we'll start a new motion.
When they did
And-
that,
So moved it, you.
I did.
Okay.
We was getting way off track there.
Yeah.
When that first
You
started,
need a second here,
the
Rob.
purpose
Second.
behind it was not to be gravel in a private driveway to one home. And, you know, it was functional equivalent to public road, even though it was privately owned.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, you have a motion and a second to
Yeah,
do a supplemental appropriation of $5,000.
Let's put a motion on the floor.
There is, there's a motion and a
You
second.
got that motion now?
We already got
Okay. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
All right, anybody else now? Okay, report and recommendation from our attorney?
Have none.
Okay, report and recommendations of the county administrator.
I have several, and I apologize, but every bit of this came in after the agenda closed and was sent out, so, but it needs to be acted on. First item will be health insurance.
Oh, I can do that way.
Gone up?
Slightly. Well, we've had a good run. It's been 5 years.
Yep.
We've received notice from the Local Choice Health Benefits Program. It's a state-run program that our employee health insurance premiums will increase by 5.1% beginning July 1. This is the first increase we've had in 5 years, and we've actually had some slight decreases during this period. The new proposed rates and portions paid by the employee and employer for the Key Advantage Expanded Benefits Program currently offered by the county are as follows. I've listed them there. A single plan, the total is $615. A dual is $1,138. And a family plan is $1,661. You can see the amount paid by the employee currently and the amount paid by the employer. We can select other benefit plans. Right now, this is the top of the line Anthem policy that's offered through the Local Choice. It is health, vision, and dental. But each lower benefit tier comes with a higher deductible and a higher out-of-pocket cost. We looked last year, we can provide up to 2 different plans. We looked last year at possibly providing a second plan. We did a survey among employees, and it revealed there was practically no interest in a lower tier plan. I think we had one person out of everybody that responded, 50-some people that responded, that said they might consider switching, but they weren't even sure they would switch to a lesser plan because you can get out-of-pocket costs pretty hefty in a hurry when you drop down to some of the lower plans. So again, this is for the top tier. We do need to advise Local Choice by April 1 if we intend to continue health coverage and if we plan to continue with this plan. So would need to consider whether or not you want to continue on with this or not. I think there have been some questions raised about the possibility of increasing the county's participation in this. So part of what was prepared for you over, not on the first set of pages, but on over in the one that's laid out like this, it's got some blue outline on it, shows you that if the county picked up 80% of every plan, it would cost us an additional $63,600 and some dollars a year to pick up that additional cost. But the key question tonight is whether we plan to take the Blue Cross or the Local Choice coverage for the Key Advantage expanded at the new rate next year. And like I say, we've had 5 good years with practically no increases at all. I've been amazed at how long we've gone. Used to it was every year and it was double digits most years.
Well, what's that choice?
Well, we'd have to go out and look for other coverage if we don't do this. We're going to continue.
Should
to
we do
provide
that anyway?
We went out, we looked, well, we talked to a consultant a few years ago, and because of the rates that we had with the low increases we'd had and our experience, he told us we probably wouldn't do any better out for similar coverage. We probably wouldn't do any better. Now again, if you look at the second page over on that, you know, you can take lesser plans. Well, that's not the second page over, actually. I thought she might have had that, but I don't believe she's included that. Yeah, it is there on that second page. It shows you as you go down to the Key Advantage 250, 500, 1,000, or what they call the high deductible plan. You know, you can lower the cost, but when you look at what the employee is paying out on a monthly basis, if they have 2 claims a year, their deductible and their out-of-pocket is probably going to be more than what they save in premiums for a full year. They could be wiped out. I mean, they could drop an additional $2,500 in a hurry if they had to be hospitalized.
So they're, I guess the ones that are hurt really don't start going. It's a 5% increase.
5.1% increase in the premium. We're going from about 585 to 615 on the single coverage.
Seems like that family has gone up a lot more than 5%.
Yeah, the sad thing about that family, there's a lot of these families, the family plans that we have employees that, you know, they're not making the kind of money that where they can afford to pay.
Yeah.
One of my questions would be, Dane, why is this not put out for bid every year? I mean, consultant or not, it don't cost anything to get a bid.
Insurance bids, you might as well hire a consultant. If you want me to sit down and take every different insurance company that's going to come in and throw a plan at you, they're not going to give you apples to apples coverage. Regardless of what you request, they're going to say, well, we don't do exactly that or this or that. Somebody that's familiar with those coverages is going to have to make a comparison on those. And if you hire a consultant to do that for you every year, you're going to pay the consultant more than what your savings would be on the off chance that you'll switch coverage every few years.
Well, I know we have to run it over at the golf course every year, and basically when they bring the proposals, it is apples to apples.
If you
That
get them all to
it's
do
supposed
that.
to have to be that this covers exactly this much. And same thing with your car insurance. If you're doing car insurance, I'm pretty sure it's against the law that they give you something besides the coverage that you've got, unless you're being notified that this is less coverage than what you had for this price.
Well,
as far as what they're quoting has to be for what you have at that time.
I went to another agent within the past year on personal car insurance and showed them what I had, but what they came back with, it was close, but not exact, because there's some differences in what each company offers on certain things. The coverages are slightly different.
Well,
And I'm not saying we couldn't go out to bid. I'm just saying you're going to hire a consultant to do that for you every year, and what the consultant's going to charge you is probably going to be more than the savings you generate when you look at it collectively over several years.
Well, the only thing I was looking at, you got places like when we went up there to the VACO meeting, you know, they were talking about insurance programs and stuff that they had. NACO, you know, these big things that do a lot of county stuff that, you know, as far as putting a bid out, once it come back in, to make at least see if it was entertainable. You know, if it was, okay, hey, you know, this will save, because we can get the most bang for a buck, you know, to help with the money and to help with the employees. Because like what Dee Dee was saying, you know, when you go pulling $700 out of somebody's pocket, you know, it ain't like most of these jobs are $100,000 a year jobs. You know, it's really pinching, and if there's anything that could be done to help that's just a little time consuming or not necessarily real costly, you know, I suggest maybe if there's any possible way that we put some of it out. And if it's questionable, you know, we can have somebody maybe take a look at it, but you know, as of right now, I think that any way possible we could send it out and see what comes back. And we might not have time on this one for this year.
This year, it would be almost impossible to get a bid out and back in and a comparison in time to be able to affect the coverages. Anthem basically has an April 1 cutoff, or local choice has an April 1 cutoff. You can push them on that a little bit, but not a lot, because they want to know where they're at. I mean, you know, they're looking at a 3-month window to know they're bringing coverage back into a group. I mean, that's their guidelines, not mine.
That's what I'm saying, we might be stuck this year, but as far as...
Right, we could do this, we would need to start in no later than January next year to put a bid out to compare coverage. And we would have to do that without the benefit of knowing what local choice was going to do that year. Because typically, well, just like now, we just got the notice of what our rates were going to be, so we don't get a lot of advance notice on it.
Well, on some of that, that's a little bit of convenience, so that you get the notice March 15th, and then their cutoff is April 1.
Right,
So I'm saying to prevent that from happening again, let's get some bids, and then next time if it comes in March 15th and they somebody that done underbid them, well then you know what, then we can roll stuff over. And it's amazing if you leave that company one time, the next roll round they come through is a heck of a lot cheaper, miraculously for some reason.
And I'm gonna make a note to put this on the calendar for December. Excuse me. And I believe it was within the last 4 years that we did actually talk to the consultant that worked for Scott County, that's worked for Scott County for several years. He got some preliminary information from us. He was kind enough to do it at no cost, and came back and said, you're better off to just stay put. So that's what we did. That's the last time we've looked that we've commercially shot.
Like I'm saying, it don't cost, it's a little bit of paperwork and a couple of stamps. You know, what you get back, if they can't beat it, they can't beat it. I mean, this is what we want, you send it out for bid. And like I said, I know good and well some of those committee meetings that we attended, there were a lot of people there representative, you know, selling their insurance pitches. And I would suggest be sent up through one of them. Like Baco, Mr. Mosley, don't they have like a big insurance agency type thing through them for the county? I thought that was in one of the
Baco got into health insurance business in the past, but they do not have coverage in Southwest Virginia at participating providers. Their coverage is concentrated more in the eastern and central part of the state. And they will tell you, they do not have providers in Kingsport. They don't have the network providers that we have here from the larger insurance companies. It's a smaller group, and I mean, we've talked to them about it in the past, and they basically, you know, that's one of the things we noted is we would be probably going to Abingdon or beyond for the closest network provider, and most of them you can't afford out of network.
Well, I just like to see the workers and the county get the best bang for the buck that we can possibly get.
National companies, you know, their coverage and their network providers are nationwide. They're not as limited as what the Baco health insurance program is. But that was one of the disadvantages when we first looked at the Baco program several years ago. And to my knowledge, it hasn't changed. They haven't proposed anything to us on that.
Okay, well, I recommend that we at least put out bids next December, January, or whatever you think would be the...
I think December would be the time to start looking at it.
That way, the next time that this rolls around, we might have something set here and compare to actually vote on.
Well, you actually might have to do it beforehand if some of the insurance companies have to have you signed up by December the 31st.
Well, no, they would go on there. I mean, our plan year can be set. I don't think they would invoke a plan year other than what your fiscal year is. If you have one that expires midterm, that's going to throw your budget all out of whack because you're going to be budgeting for 6 months definite, and you don't know what the other 6 months is going to be. So I think we would specify to them what we wanted our plan year to be, so that they would have to.
I guess one of our biggest, I know my biggest gripe with it is it's just this family plan, because I just really feel sorry for the ones that are having to pay $701 a month. That's not really making a great deal of money to begin with.
Well,
if we're going to stick with it, I think
taking other coverage may not change that. I mean, the differential between single and a family plan is going to be pretty much the same from one policy to the next. Even if it's slightly cheaper, it's only going to be slightly cheaper. Now, the percentage that the county contributes is determined by you.
Yeah, that's something we may need to be looking into then. What else you got?
Well,
you need us vote on that.
I would need a motion on that.
I'll make that motion.
Here a second?
I'll second.
We don't have no choice, do we?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Next item is rabies clinic schedule. Moving from health insurance to rabies. State code requires that when rabies clinics are scheduled, that they be approved by the local governing body. The Lee County Animal Hospital here in Jonesville has proposed a schedule for 3 consecutive Saturdays in May the 7th, May the 14th, and May the 21st. The locations are listed on the sheet that's being distributed to you there. And last year it worked real well. Our animal control officer went out and on those Saturdays and went with them and sold tags at the same time people were getting vaccinations, and did rather well. So quite a few licenses that way last year. So but this requires approval by the board in order for them to do this.
Okay, I make a motion, we approve the schedule.
Second.
Rabies clinic. Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Next item, just an update on the, I know we talked last month about the animal control ordinances. Unfortunately, and I'd hoped to have a public hearing scheduled for this month, but unfortunately, when last month's meeting ended, I had exactly 8 business days to sort through. That's the state code on animal control laws. And there's no need to adopt all of this as it's written in state code, because a lot of it doesn't apply to us. It applies only to the state. So we've got to go through this and pick the portions that are locality driven and delete the portions that are state driven, but we'll try to have that ready next month. Give us a little bit more time to make the changes that are needed on that. Also, within the next 30 days, a couple of bids that I hope to put out, and these are projects that have sort of been out there for a while. One is new doors at 3 of the entrances here in the courthouse. The old wooden doors need to be replaced. They are badly worn, causing some problems with rodents being able to actually get in the building. We don't have that much problem with that, but they are escapability with some of the holes in those doors. And for the security reasons, it was voted on to replace those. At the same time, we'll be looking at including with that bid replacement of the 2 side doors at the health department. The front doors over there had been replaced with storefront type metal and glass doors a few years ago. Those side doors are old wooden doors. They're not very good, and for security reasons there as well, that'll be included in the bid. So I hope to get that out within the next 30 days. And also, this is a project I think I talked to you about as you were coming into office. We are going to have some budget savings this year from the health department, about $40,000 that's going to be remaining that they will not draw down. And I would like to take advantage of those funds and tear out the sidewalks over there and the curbs and place new sidewalks and curbs. A quick visit over there, if you have a chance to go by, you'll see why. The sidewalks are sloped, they're crumbling, the curbs are breaking off. We're setting up a tripping hazard or a fall hazard over there all the way around that building. Those sidewalks really need to be replaced. And at the same time, we need to put guttering along the front edge of the building, because that water comes off the building onto the sidewalks and freezes in the wintertime. So hope to get both those projects out within the next 30 days. Next item, this one just came yesterday, so I don't have a recommendation one way or the other on this one. I just got an email asking if the county would consider providing a letter of support for Sunset Digital Communications in their efforts in buying BVU. I know the deal had pretty much been announced, and then there's some wrinkles that have come about. I've noticed in the news another bidder in the process, and all that's been put on hold. I think City Council now is going to have to vote on that in Bristol. I'm not sure exactly where it's going, so I'm just bringing this to you for you to consider. And again, I know it's short notice, and I can't give you all the details on the deal. All I can do is just give you what I've been provided.
You got a hand up out there.
They voted at 6:30.
Did they vote? What did they vote?
imagine they voted to approve.
Okay, they may not need it then. Is that a live report?
Well, it's a little delayed.
I didn't hear you, David. What did they vote?
Get your phone?
I imagine
Probably go to Bristol Earl Curry or pull it out.
See it.
City council voted on it. They may not have updated. Well, it's 10 o'clock. They probably,
Well, I guarantee that's updated.
well, okay. Given that information, we can move on to something else. This one came in. I had hoped to get it in back your packet.
They were supposed to vote it.
Sunset Digital. It would be city council vote.
Good gracious.
Walls Ridge State Prison has an annual golf tournament that benefits the Mountain Empire Older Citizens Fuel Fund. They dropped this off. They have an opportunity if you want to sponsor a hole to help support this. The tournament will actually take place down here at the Cedar Hill Country Club.
Cemetery.
Yeah, I believe they could have moved in front of that, couldn't they?
I don't believe that's very good for Empire older citizens.
Council votes 4-1 to
I believe I've got it over here on this side.
That's,
To approve what?
that's kind of depressing. Get their letter of support.
Forgive them, Lord, for they don't know what they do.
The budget, I hope we still have a few departments, very few that have not submitted all theirs. I don't have all my work done yet on it, but within the next 2.5 weeks, we should have everything entered in and be ready to get started in earnest on it. I would suggest that we schedule a recess meeting sometime after April 1st to begin with the budget process.
I'm not after April 15th.
It's up to you all. I can use the extra time, believe me.
I was thinking that because of equalization board.
Yeah, I know it, but. I mean, that's your all's call whenever you want to meet on it. I'll just let you know. Anytime after the 1st, we'll be ready to start. We won't have all the answers, but we'll be ready to start. Final item I have is request for closed session under investing of public funds, and this will be to discuss financing proposals.
I need it.
Do you need a date on that one thing today, Dan, or we need to set something later?
The budget work session, well, if you're gonna do it before, April the 19th, you need to take it up tonight, because April 19th will be our next regular meeting. I hate to go have a special call meeting just for a budget work session. But when Mr. Slint gets back, if you all want to discuss that, I mean, like I say, we'll be ready to go